Welcome to Raging Bullets, a DC Comics fan podcast, episode 397B. I am Sean Whelan, drnorge, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Jim, the sensei of the whatnot Segulin, and the Duke of You Know. This was originally intended to be the second part, very quickly released, hour-long second part. And as Jim and I started recording, we ended up doing a full episode just because we had a lot of content we wanted to talk about. So on this episode, we're going to be discussing The Flash number 32, Batman Eternal number 13, and Future's End number 9. We also have a listener voicemail and some casual comic chat. We are proud members of the Comics Podcast Network and the League of Comic Book Podcasts. Plus, we are a part of the DCinfinite.com podcast partnership. Sponsoring this episode is DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com. Over at DCBService.com, I am a huge fan of the Earth 1 hardcover books. The Teen Titans one is being solicited. This is written by Jeff Lemire with art by Terry and Rachel Dodson. And it's regularly $22.99, 50% off, only $11.49. In this new original graphic novel, the young heroes of the Teen Titans never felt like normal kids, but they had no idea how right they were. Their seemingly idyllic Oregon upbringing hides a secret. One that will bring killers, shamans, and extraterrestrials down on their heads and force them into an alliance that could shake the planet to its foundations. This is a brand new reimagining of the Teen Titans, and I'm a huge fan of this. That's DCBService.com, your comic book pre-order source. Over at InStockTrades.com, you're going to want to check out their Hellblazer sale. They are doing a special 45% off deal on all of the Hellblazer trades 1 through 8. This is to get you caught up in time for that new television series that's coming, and I'm really excited for that. Hellblazer Volume 1, Original Sins, is in a brand new printing. This collects issues 1 through 9, but also his appearances in Swamp Thing 76 and 77. This is a $19.99 trade paperback, 45% off, only $10.99. You are going to find the same discount of 45% off on all of the trades 2 through 8 as well. Great way to get caught up on this series. Remember, orders of $50 or more give you free shipping. So if you never read Hellblazer and you're like, well, I really want to delve into that, this is a great way to do it and to get free shipping to boot. We want to thank DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com for continuing to support our show. James, what kind of a podcast are we?
Raging Bullets is a spoiler podcast. We go in depth and plot line stories, twists, and whatnot of the comics we're discussing on the show. So if you haven't read the books, you may want to come back later so you can better enjoy the show. My Flash version.
I caught it. I knew where you were going with that. I was smiling the whole time you were doing it. So let's talk some comics.
A scarlet costume ejects from his ring, and in a blur of motion, police scientist Barry Allen becomes the Flash.
Jim, I want to kind of do a non-spoilery shout-out to, kind of Speeding Bullet style, to Justice League 31 and Justice League United number 2. Since this whole Forever Evil thing was over, those books have, quickly risen to the top of my stack again. There's not that I didn't like Justice League before, I was always into it. We alluded to this on the episodes we were talking about it, though, where it wasn't, the top tier in the books for us the way that they were previously. Am I right in that with you? I know that was the way it was for me. They're great books. I'm glad I was reading them. But now, I can't miss. The most recent Justice League number 31 is the confrontation between Bruce and Lex. Yeah. And I know you haven't read it yet, so I'm going to we knew that was coming from the cliffhanger and just say, oh my gosh, was that fantastic. It's just such a great, great issue that if you're not reading Justice League right now, pick up 31. If you haven't been reading the storyline, you will quickly figure out what's been going on. There are so many moments in there where I was like, oh my gosh, what a great, great read. It's just, I wanted to recommend that one. And United number 2. In United, they found what happened to Hawkman, and this whole battle with Lobo that was going on has been kind of continuing. It ties in, we're going to be talking about the 5 year later with the New 52, that week-long story arc that's going on. I loved how Justice League United, there were things going on in that book with Hawkman that relates heavily to things that are going on in the weekly. It just, to me, the handling of Hawkman in both books as a Hawkman fan who's been like longing for some really cool Hawkman action, this has just been a phenomenal couple weeks for me because I really loved his appearances in Justice League United. Love the whole team there. I love the dynamic of the group. Issue number 2 really had the group gelling together. And the standout for me, there was a sequence with Martian Manhunter where I was like high-fiving. I was like, whoa, I don't know who I was high-fiving. I was high-fiving my wall more than likely, but I was doing some form of high-fiving and shouting and hoorahing because there is a sequence with Martian Manhunter that involves his powers at a time where it was just kind of like, oh, you mean he was playing a ruse? It was just so really cool that I really loved it. So both of those books, just standouts this week as far as team books go. And I know you haven't read both yet, so that's why I'm kind of keeping my comments kind of general. And they're non-spoilery because we're not really listing those at the beginning of the podcast as being books we're talking about, other than to say I am geeking out Justice League style right now at the moment.
That's cool. That's cool. And you can high-five yourself. You just got to be careful when you do it.
Wait a minute. See, I can't gloss over this. Have you injured yourself doing a high five or something?
Well, you know how sometimes when you go to high-five a buddy and you miss?
You missed yourself?
Well, I'm not saying I have, but I'm saying it can happen.
Okay, wait, let's do it this way. Let's do it this way. The friend of yours that this happened to, what happened to him?
Well, you think about it. Okay, you're high-fiving yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how are you going to high-five yourself? You're going to high-five yourself in front, right in your front. So what's, right in front of your face.
It is, you are where it's clapping, right?
If it's an excited clap, and you're not really paying attention, you can, because usually what happens when you miss, one person goes to one side, one goes to another side. Well, if you're high-fiving right in front of your face, what's to the side of your hand but your face? And a self high-five could very easily turn into a slap.
Mm-hmm. So your friend almost knocked himself out.
It was open hand, so they're never in any real danger other than, dang it, that's stupid. I'm not saying it was me.
No, that's why I know it clearly was a friend of yours. But wow. Let's talk about The Flash. The Flash number 32. This was actually a request of mine. I wanted to talk about this book because I've just been really digging The Flash. This is Robert Venditti and Van Jensen on writing, Brett Booth on pencils, Norm Rapmund inks, Andrew Dahlhaus is the colorist, Desi Cienti letterer, Booth, Rapmund, and Dahlhaus on the cover, Ahmed Turturro is the assistant editor, Brian Cunningham the group editor, and on both the letterer and the assistant editor, I apologize for name butchery because this book, I don't want to say I was worried about this book. I was very passionate about this book going into the creative change. This storyline with Barry coming from the future to present day. Well, not he's kind of whipping around. And I've figured out where my confusion about 5 years later came from. Remember we were talking about that and we were kind of convinced that all the books were jumping this way?
Yeah.
This was the book because the initial kickoff of this took place, didn't it, 5 years later, and that 5 year later time, isn't that when it happened?
Yeah, because you think about it, they showed Barry's 5 years later is when Wally dies.
Mm-hmm.
So that was, the beginning of his downward spiral and all the future stuff that happens that he's now going back to fix. So that was the same thing I was thinking as well with the jump forward, etc.
So I think that's why I thought this book was the first book to make the jump. I don't mean that in a bad way. After I started realizing what was going on and this is its own contained arc, I really grew to love it even more. I like that this is just its own storyline, and Barry is this will have its own 5 year later issue, but it won't be. It might be relating to this, but it'll be at its own little puzzle piece like it does. I don't know. I really like this storyline. I'm a big fan of time travel. I've mentioned Doctor Who on the show many times, but I loved Voyagers and stuff like that as a kid. To me, that is probably one of my favorite elements in storytelling when it makes sense. And the Flash is one of those characters where you see the Speed Force can be a very powerful power set. It can also be a very deadly power set. And this issue, and the one before it in particular, alluding to things that have happened with Grodd and with other characters jumping in throughout the time stream, and how it's actually causing tears in the time stream. I love that kind of stuff. It's really great, powerful storytelling. It's great to see things in a possible future that could be happening that Barry's trying to correct. You can't help but see how he could wind up this way. But by the same token, I can't wait till our Barry sees him.
Yeah.
Because there's no way our Barry is going to want to become this guy.
Yeah, and there's no way our Barry is going to accept blindly that this is the only possible future. He's going to think in his head, now that I know about this possible future, I can prevent it. So they're going to have a massive fight where future Barry versus current Barry. Because future Barry's thinking the only way I can fix this is by killing myself.
Right.
But the current Barry is still positive. He's still upbeat. He still has hope. So he's going to say, no. Now that I got this knowledge, I'm playing out in my head what's going to happen between these two. And I'm actually very excited to see that confrontation, to see where this goes, because there's, limitless possibilities of how this thing plays out. Because you think about it, future Barry's going to know what current Barry's how he's going to react to it and how he would think, because he can think like himself. So there's going to be some really neat strategy going on with how does the future approach the past, sneak up on himself, or, how does he deal with that whole process? So yeah, this is some cool stuff coming down the line here.
See, I'm really becoming convinced that strategery is when people, they don't know how to pronounce the word, means they haven't really grasped the concept. Where there's the poor strategy here is Barry from the future is going back and doing all of these horrible things under the justification that he's going to undo it all by killing himself in the past. Yeah. So then why does he need to do all of these things? And here's the thing. I'm not saying he's wrong to do it. It's the inherent problem with his whole philosophy, from killing himself to doing these things. It's wrong. Once you start heading down a wrong path, there is no real justification for it. There's right and there's wrong. Going back and killing yourself and changing like a potential future and all that, that's not the way to correct this. If there is some major fault in his lifetime, he should correct that in that timeline. He should own up to it, do what he can in that timeline to correct it. You don't go back and start killing off people on the way and going, hey, but don't worry, none of this matters, because when I go into the past and end me, this won't have happened. So then why are you doing it? He's crazy. I actually like it. It's I'm not faulting the storyline for it. This is just proof that this guy is off his rocker.
Yeah, and I agree with you. It's kind of a neat thing where, there's some subtle clues they started to drop in the hint. Like a couple issues ago when he runs to, I think, South America to get some rare fruit for Patty and comes back and his coffee's cold. Mm-hmm. That was the first time they show the clock, his watch where he's losing time. And I like that little subtle clue. And then later on, just keep these little issues where he's losing more time than he realizes it. And then the current issue, he kind of comes forward and says, hey, this is what's going on. I didn't realize. It was small stuff at first. I didn't notice the big picture. And I like just seeing that desperate kind of, Barry with Captain Cold just having that moment, and just having that point of explanation saying, hey, I messed up. And to me, it's part crazy, but it's also part he needs to make personal reparations to what he's done. Mm-hmm. And that's why he went and killed Grodd. That's why he trapped Mirror Master. That's why he went and he was standing, at Leonard's bed when he died, so Leonard didn't die by himself. He felt bad about that, saying, you know what, I missed this moment. I'm going to make right on this. And I think that's why he's going through, kind of give himself some peace and closure before he ends his existence. So when he can go into whatever's the speed force in the sky, he can say, hey, I fixed my errors. I made, I owned up to my mistakes and I've corrected them. And here's the ultimate correction I'm going to sacrifice. So, yes, there is a little bit of crazy, but yes, I kind of understand the crazy.
Well, the crazy comes from this desperate need for validation that you're alluding to. He needs to be validated, not just for himself. In many ways, like what he does with Captain Cold is, he can't really speak to anyone on a level about this that would understand. he knows that subconsciously or even in the forefront of his mind, he's aware of that. So this is kind of a chance for him to unravel his own conscience, while at the same time kind of connecting with Captain Cold, an enemy of his, but yet somebody who's also had a similar change in path. Because if you take a look at Captain Cold, he went from being this bad guy, and Barry's alluding to that, to now you're a good guy. You know, you had this opportunity to join the Justice League, and you helped save the world from the, crime syndicate. You were a part of all that. You took advantage of this path and headed down a new path. Now, the great part about the way that story was handled, we don't know all of what Snart's life looked like afterwards. He could have gone back to a life of crime. Who knows? What his life looked like after that. But it's an interesting storyline. I like that it was the fusing of his powers to himself ultimately doomed him.
Yeah.
That's a real interesting thing as well. I love these kind of stories because I can't help but wonder, how is this going to play into what happens with him from here on forward? In present day I'm talking about.
Yeah, and there's two interesting things on that for me, because he fused his powers, but then he got unfused. Mm-hmm. So somewhere along the way, he's going to get refused with his powers again, which I think is kind of neat, because I do like the traditional where it's his cold guns, but I did like the fusing of his powers with him, and I thought that made him, gave him just a little bit better advantage than some guy shooting the guns, because it was more of reaction, as thinking and just reaction, as opposed to the physical pulling of the trigger. But the thing that gets me is, I think he does go back to a life of crime after the Justice League, because if you remember that nurse, tells him that end, like that caper where you froze the dam, scared my niece, and she had nightmares and therapy for months and whatnot. But that, I'm assuming, occurred after the Justice League.
How do you know?
Well, here's why. Because this is 12 years later. And if her niece was, I believe, like 6 or 8 when this occurred.
Okay.
So I thought that's what I thought. I don't have the panel in front of me right now, but I thought that's what she said. She was a little kid when this occurred, so it must have...
But that doesn't mean that she doesn't still hold a grudge 12 years later.
True. That could be true as well.
I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying that what I like about this is you could be right. I like the ambiguity, I guess is what I'm saying. Yeah. I like that you could be 100% correct. I like that you could also be wrong. Here's why I like that. It doesn't affect what's going on in present day. It makes us wonder, where is his path? Like, it makes me interested in following Captain Cold, I guess is what I was saying before, because of the possibilities you're mentioning. So I actually quite like what you're saying, because I'm like, yeah, that's on the table. What's on the table, too, is what if he doesn't? There's a lot on the table with him that's far interesting to me. And I like when a book like this makes me interested in seeing him in Justice League.
Yes.
I mean, there's things about that this, when you're following a shared universe like this, and you've got a storyline in Flash that's making you interested in following Captain Cold in a different title, that's a hidden victory in my mind. And this is where the creative team, I think, really is succeeding in this because of what you're mentioning. So I don't really want to dispute anything you're saying, because I'm as intrigued by what you're saying as you are. I just like the open-ended nature of the possibilities that are there. You can speculate loosely and just really enjoy the speculation, because it just makes you excited to see the character's path.
Yeah. Again, it's it's funny because we're sitting here, and that's the strength of the Flash universe, the strength of the Rogues. Especially what they've gone through with the New 52 is these characters are just as vital to this universe as Flash is. Just like Gordon's is vital in the Bat universe, or Alfred, or any of the other associated non-Bat people, that are part of that universe. And that's something I'm really digging and really enjoying about this my personal continued exploration of the Flash. Because you have a much longer, lengthier history than I do, but I now understand Barry. I get who Barry is. I get who the Rogues are, and it's funny because I look at this, I see Barry's going down a dark path, but I have faith that present Barry, is going to come up with a different way to solve this. He's going to think this through. He's going to figure out something, and it's that hope that always is Barry. And I always go back to, with Blackest Night, where he became the Blue Lantern because of his ability to instill hope and because of everything that he is. I'm like, this is Barry Allen. this is the kind of superhero that I like. He's that positive hero. So we're right now seeing a darker side of him, but we still have the light. And that's why I'm so looking forward to that confrontation between these two, not for a physical, cool Flash fight, but for that cool, Barry Allen, how is he going to handle this moments?
Yeah, I agree with you. One of the cool things that I love about The Flash is when it's well written, and the best writers and creative teams who've handled this book have really gotten this. This book should feel like no other book in the DC universe because of Barry's relationship with the people in his city, because of Barry's relationship with his villains, but also because of the experimental nature of the Flash's powers. He's always learning something new. Events cause the Flash to get clever with the use of speed to try and solve problems. And they should be exciting, they should be interesting, and they should feel like, wow, this is neat. Like when he's being, kicked up into the sky by that gun. And he's realizing, through his own history that, like, this guy isn't the villain who he's pretending to be. And this is really somebody who's stolen and gotten access to this equipment. I know this because of the different hands being used and the way you lead in battle. This is somebody who is a scientist, a forensic scientist. He catches the details. I love that stuff.
Yeah.
There's tiny little reminders of who he is outside of the costume coming into play when he's in the costume. That should distinguish Barry from Wally. As a huge Wally fan, I like the distinction because to me, I love Jay Garrick. I love the Flash concept. So, being able to distinguish what makes one different from the other is really, really important to me. So when you see him like being kicked into the sky, and he's using flipping, his hands really, really fast to create those, kind of like tornadoes to slow himself down. He's sitting there, shoot, gotta slow down.
Hey, it's working. Oh, so slow. Yeah.
I love that intensity because it is something he's trying for the first time. Sometimes when those things, like, you don't want the hero to look like a klutz. But there's also something to be said for when a hero's trying something new, for it to feel new, not to be too clean. There's something to that. The build to that shows a skilled thinking veteran. But the attempt should look a little dirty. I loved how that whole sequence played out. It made me smile. There was something interesting about it. It didn't lose anything for the Flash. The artwork was gorgeous. I gotta say, I like this rendition of the costume a lot. Each artist that has touched this character has done their own take on it. It's been slight variations from the original designs when they revamped the character. I really like this look right now. It's a nice evolution from where we were in the previous run. And this is a series that has been very special to me since the kickoff. I think it's only continuing to evolve to a higher level. And it's really why I wanted to talk about this book. When we found out we were going to have the opportunity to split the recordings, I asked you, I said, do you mind like throwing out another book? Because I'm really loving The Flash right now. And thank you for giving into this. I'm hoping for you it gave you the same sense of joy that I had reading this.
God, yeah.
Because I really dig this right now.
Oh God, yes. I'm really digging The Flash, and this is a book I'll recommend to people just because a lot of the stuff you're saying is there is this fun and there is this enjoyment, there's this serious, there's this dark nature, there's everything playing out in this book, and at the core of it, you have Barry Allen, and you got I have faith that Barry's going to figure this out, that in the end he's going to come through. Now, how it's going to happen, I'm not exactly sure, and I think that's part of my enjoyment is I really don't know what Barry's going to do. All I know is he's going to win. I always have faith in Superman, and I have faith in the Flash. And granted, both characters in the past have died fighting, have died saving the universe, so maybe there'll be a new Flash coming down the line. It's a possibility. I don't think we're going to get rid of Barry so soon, but you never know with the Flash, because we know he will sacrifice himself. He will sacrifice himself for the greater good. I don't want to see it, but we're seeing that with the future Flash coming back, willing to sacrifice himself. There's so many different stuff and so many different levels of Barry that I'm really excited. And you talk about funny moments. One I really enjoyed was when he had his splashdown, and he gets out. He's like, "Please tell me no one saw that." I love that.
And who pulls up in the car?
What?
Who pulls up in the car right as he's coming down too?
Yeah.
I love that Patty shows up on the scene, because you're right. Not only was that a fun sequence, but it led to the sequence that I'm really enjoying with Barry right now. Is Barry's been, since Forever Evil, running frantically, trying to make sure that he doesn't miss anything, and hopefully that he can keep things under control so he never misses something as large as what happened with Forever Evil again. He feels a lot of guilt for that.
Yeah.
And it's interesting considering that this is somebody who, as a hero, he volunteers. This isn't something, he's not sanctioned, he's not paid. He does this because he believes it's right. And it's his duty to do it. And it's what drives him, obviously, to be a forensic scientist as well. It's his vocation, his calling. He is paid for that. But you get pulled into a law enforcement career. Ultimately, the majority of the people that go into it do it because they have this sense of wanting to make some form of difference. I really like that sense that you get from Barry, that in and out of the costume, it's driven by the same thing that put him there. Some of that is due to the fact of what happened to his mom, to his dad, this sense of, being there to see all the clues, to solve the mystery ahead of time so nobody else goes through injustice. His connection to Wally comes from that as well, like his wanting to buy into what Iris is asking from him. I feel for him in his trap here, because part of me, when I was running through this, I was thinking to myself, I'm married. I was thinking about my own wife. How would I handle this type of situation? Well, the easiest way to do it is to go through your wife first when this is on the table, and your girlfriend, whatever, and to just come clean and say, look, this is what's going on. Do you want to come with us? Well, here's the problem. He's supposed to be there connecting with Wally, right? The big mistake is Iris being there.
Yeah.
Iris shouldn't be there. It should be Barry and Wally. If you're going to do the big brother thing, the Iris thing is the ultimate. I get what Patty's saying. She shouldn't be there. And she's right. Iris shouldn't be there. But here's the question. Would Wally go if Iris was not there? I don't know. So there's a trap there. You can't really bring Patty along, because I know how I would be in that situation. You're then divided in your time, because he would naturally, and you have to be concerned with spending and paying attention to Patty, which is going to divert his time away from Wally. He's in a catch-22. This is a no-win scenario for him. It's really hard to make everybody happy in this mess that he's in right now. I get the value of saying, hey, I'm connecting with this kid because I've been there. I love this story because you could have huge debates over right and wrong and what Barry might or might not be able to do here. There's something very real about the scenario being presented here and how it's handled.
This is definitely Kobayashi Maru territory. Mm-hmm. This is the no-win solution. And I love it. Again, we're always wondering what happens to Patty when they first started introducing the character, because everybody assumes Barry and Iris are going to get together, but what's going to happen to Patty? And I was terrified that they were going to kill her off for a story's sake and just to make room for Barry and Iris. And seeing these sequences, I feel bad for Patty because she's a great person, but I feel better because I'm like, maybe she'll live. Maybe she'll just dump him and move on to someone else, but she'll still be alive. So it's weird. I've got mixed emotions that I'm happy that there's a chance maybe she's going to be out of the picture and breathing, but I'm sad because she is a cool person, and you see just her in pain. You see, Barry not intending to hurt her, but he's it's the situation is getting away from him. So it's because if Iris wasn't there, Wally wouldn't be there, especially because Barry was late to the game. He definitely wouldn't have stuck around. He would have taken off. He would have been out doing spray painting more anti-Flash stuff on the city. It was Iris who actually got him into the game, and then Barry joined them later on. So
the interesting part about these relationships are, I would eventually like to see Barry married to one of the two, just because that seems to be Barry's path. What I mean by that is Barry's a stand-up guy. He's the kind of guy that you could see wanting to, seal the deal, build a life for himself in the midst of all that. And you can see him inspiring that in the woman that he would be with. He's that kind of rock solid. Aside from all the crazy and the fact that he's late places and stuff like that, Patty knows in that case there's a genuine reason there. And she gives him a lot of latitude due to it. It's very interesting that Patty's latitude is based on honesty. when there's not honesty and she finds out things after the fact, rightfully so, that's where her anger comes from. I really like that. Like, I'm with you. I like her as a character. I'm a Barry and Iris junkie. And mainly because when I was reading Wally so much, Iris was like the spokesperson for Barry with Wally. You know, she came from the future to the present day, and she was like that with Wally. She was like that with Bart. I really grew to like her character independent of Barry. I would actually argue that I have a richer history with Iris than I even do Barry because of the amount of time that I read Wally. So I ultimately want to see Barry and Iris together, but Patty's winning me over to the point where it's kind of like what's going on with Superman and Wonder Woman versus Lois Lane. I'm enjoying the relationship so much with these two that I'm having a tough time saying that I want him to wind up with Iris. And I like that. That's good writing. I do want to see... those are the two relationships. It's funny that I'm mentioning both characters, Superman and the Flash. They were two characters that I both liked married. I don't buy into the argument that you can't make married characters interesting. I think you can overdo it in a universe, and that's a trap as well. But I think there's certain characters that you want to see that logical progression with, and those are two that I would eventually like to see head down that path. But I'm enjoying the journey so much right now. And that's the point as well. You know, when you've exhausted that journey, there comes a point where it's like, well, how do we take them to the next place? Well, in serialized storytelling, you would take them down the aisle and make it go that way. And I'm sorry, I just want to go back to one thing, I'll give this to you. Where it's interesting with Patty or Iris, whichever one that would wind up being, the relationships are being so well developed with both of those two, they will constantly, unless they leave town, constantly be a part of Barry's life. They will intersect, which will always cause drama with the other. And I find that interesting as well, because that's also very real world. And I like that. I think there's some well-written character development here that makes continuity fun.
Oh, God, yeah.
And I'm sorry,
this is, you know, because because you hit on what I was just about to say with, you know, the interaction between the two of those two. Because, you know, just as important as I said, all the characters in the Flash universe, those two coming together, that's the other thing I want to see, is those two actually kind of come to head or talk and hang out or do something. Because that is the only thing that could possibly save Barry, is if he brings the two females that are in his life together and have them each realize that they're not enemies. Now, I say this, you know, as me, so take that with a grain of salt with my record with dealing with females, because it's not been a pretty one, but I think these two characters, these two people, could actually get along and could actually pull this off, and that could be the one chance for Barry to get out of this mess that he's digging himself into, because he's digging himself in a hole massively. And, you know, at this game, you talk about how, you know, he couldn't bring Patty. I think he could have brought Patty. I think if Patty and Iris could have sat together and those two could have hit it off, maybe become best of friends, while Barry is hanging and associating with Wally and connecting with him.
Yeah, I agree with where you're going on that. I don't know that you want to do the initial introduction this way. Here's the catch. Look at the time frame that's presented there. He's telling her this basically when he's in the midst of this park. Yeah. He hasn't had a chance to tell her before that. What you're talking about, yes, can work, and I agree with your scenario there. The problem is you really have to have the long talk with Patty saying, listen, this is what I really need from you. I really need to connect with this kid, and that really needs to be where my focus is. I'd love for you to be there, just because I'm not trying to hide something from you. This is really about doing the whole Big Brother thing. Can you kind of focus on Iris or something like that? There's no time for him to do any of this right now. And that's the big problem with this whole scenario, is in his world, with how fast everything's moving, those are the type of conversations you should be having. Hindsight's 20/20.
Yeah.
When do you have time to sit down and think that through? That's the reality of the whole thing. He goofed up. It's a boneheaded move. And I actually like your scenario the best, because that, to me, is the advice I would give him if you had time to sit down with Barry and talk. You don't in his world. This is typically, in any relationship, male or female, where you make the biggest mistakes, when you rush to a rash decision and you don't communicate with your significant other. And you actually solved his problem in a nice, clean, tied up bow, because then you wouldn't have the scenario at the end where Iris is looking at him, kind of like, wow, she's seeing a side of Barry now that it's clear she's becoming attracted to that.
Yes.
And you get it because, he's made this connection. I'll say this as a teacher. Take Iris out of the picture for a second and take the kid. I've had students in this type of scenario before where they come to you with a chip on their shoulder. And it may be that they had a bad year previously. It may be there's something going on at home. It may be, just the age that they are. There's no outside circumstance that's really driving that. They're just at an age where maybe they're trying to find themselves or something like that, and they come in like this. So take any outside influence and it just being something that's internal driving it, and you're in that case. I've been in those moments before where it's over a lunch, and that's one of the reasons why I used to love doing lunch with my students, because it would be, I had this scenario with, the grumpiness.
Yeah.
That was my day with that particular student. Whether it was male or female, sometimes it was a conversation where there was 6 of us at the table, because I usually had them bring friends with them when they'd have lunch with me. And somebody would say something, and it would lead to a lighthearted moment. We'd start laughing, and we'd all connect over that. It'd be something where I could jump in, and we were sharing stories. You'd have that fun moment. I was so connecting with this sequence because I've been there before. Not at this particular scenario. I've been there before where you've made that connection. Now, all of a sudden, that person who was grumpy with you before, you understand them in a way that you didn't previously. They understand you in a way that they didn't understand previously. And it's a real key moment that begins to turn your relationship. It isn't a light switch. These two are still going to have a rocky road. But they've began the process. Barry knows now, wait, there's a doorway to this. There is a way to reach that. Depending on how much baggage Wally actually has, depends on how many doors you have to really kick down in order for that to happen, or crack open slowly, depending on what this kid needs. Sometimes it's more of a larger push, sometimes it's very slow and tentative pushes. But that was the real situation here. This is great comics. When you have strong character drama in the midst of all of the crazy that's going on, you had some great action sequences in the past couple issues in particular. And there's something I want to go back to from the last issue at the end, because I think we need to talk about that as well. But I just really love the character drama of the Flash right now. This is on my short list of books from DC right now. I jump to the Flash every time it comes out. And when we were talking about doing a second part to this and doing the 2 issues, I'm like, well, let's throw on a 3rd book so it feels like a complete component in and of itself. The Flash was the first thing that jumped to my mind because of how much I'm running to this title. And I really didn't mean a pun there, but there's something fitting about feeling that way about the Flash. And I'm glad I feel that way about this book, because there's been a lot of times in my life where this has been that book that's been extremely important to me from DC, and I'm glad it feels that way right now. And I encourage people, if they've jumped off at some point, maybe the Flash wasn't for them, you really want to give this team a chance. It's a very easy jump on right now, because they're only a few issues into this run, and there's something really special going on in this book, and I've been really enjoying it.
Oh, God, yeah. I'm echoing all your sentiments and nodding my head furiously, because this has been, this has been a really cool a really cool ride, going on so far, and I think, I'm excited and looking forward to what we got coming down the line from the Flash.
Do you like New Wally?
Yeah. You know what? He's modern day Wally. He's not golly gee Willikers, clean cut, the Flash's super sidekick. But you can see there is a good kid kind of somewhere in the lines there. And somebody like Barry, once again, a positive male figure in this kid's life, could actually bring something out and could bring something out of this kid and make things, a little bit brighter for him.
Well, the title of the next issue is Flash versus Wally, or the tagline for the next issue is Flash versus Wally. It's going to be interesting to see what is the relationship with Wally with the Flash, because of the family history there.
Well, the relationship with Flash and Wally is going to be terrible.
Right.
I think we're going to get we're going to see an increasing relationship of Barry and Wally and a decreasing relationship. We're going to see Wally probably step up his hatred towards the Flash from just spray painting to maybe doing something. I think that's where we're going to, because that's going to be the conflict that Barry's going to have going on right now, is the fact that here's this kid that he's trying to connect to and try to help as Barry Allen, who hates him as the Flash.
And here's going to be the question. What happens when, and see, this is where the story's starting to get really intriguing for me. This is where I really like New Wally. What happens when Wally finds out?
Yeah,
because that's going to be the ultimate end game, is that Wally's going to eventually find out, and what is that going to be like? This is where the story gets good. You don't want that right now. You want to build to that. And they're setting up a really interesting build to getting to know this Wally, which we need to do. As readers, we need to get to know Wally. We're not there yet with him. Like, I want to know this kid, and I want to really like him. I don't dislike him right now. I'm enjoying this storyline a great deal. I don't have a handle on him yet. I want to have a handle on him. I want to feel like, at the end, that I want this kid to be Kid Flash, which is ultimately where this should go. I want this kid to become Barry's sidekick. I'm not there yet. That's normal. It would be weird to kind of go, let's see it right now, hoorah. But I want to get to the point where I like the relationship so much that I want to see him eventually become Kid Flash. That should be a build. I want that to be an interesting story. I want that to be some character drama. They're setting up some really cool character-driven moments in this storyline with that. Can we talk a little about the Mirror Master ending?
Oh, yeah.
Because that was from last issue, and I don't know how we can't talk about that, because weren't you at the end going, oh my gosh, that is such a cool storyline, but it's so wrong. Barry saved everybody. He set up a scenario where there was a way for them all to get out of the Mirror's universe, the civilians that were going to be killed. But he left Mirror Master in a place where he would be the victim the same way that all the people were.
Right.
What do you think about that? And wow, that was a part for me where I'm like, wow, this guy we knew he was crossing the line, but there was no reason to do what he did.
Well, and it goes back to our original comment that we made about Barry getting a little bit on the crazy side, or Barry just trying to validate, correct the mistakes he's made in the past. This was a massive, in a way, this was a step up above from what he did to Grodd. By killing Grodd kind of had it coming. Grodd is a really nasty, evil creature. Mirror Master's a thief and I honestly believe what would have happened, what happened previously, or would have happened, or whatnot, however you want to word it, was an accident. Mirror Master didn't intend to kill all those people.
No.
It was just a freak earthquake came through, broke the mirrors. And even when Barry's telling him, hey, these mirrors are all about to break, there's going to be a freak earthquake. What? There's no earthquakes in this part of the country. So Mirror Master really didn't think he was going to kill those people. It was going to be a giant accident, and it was going to be a massive slaughter of people. Well, Barry, however, he did, intend on killing Mirror Master. What Mirror Master did was an accident. What Barry did was calculated, cold-blooded murder. And I thought that was like, wow. Again, holy crud, killing Grodd is one thing, but Mirror Master, that's, and not only killing him, taking off the hands, getting the gun, to get the guns away from him so he can't escape, and just really completely, that was, reverse Flash type of evilness in Barry.
Batman Begins is my favorite Batman movie of all time because of the development of Bruce and all that, but there's that pivotal moment at the end that I have an inherent problem with, when he decides, I don't have to kill you. I just don't have to save you. that whole bit. I'm misquoting the line. I'm throwing it off the top of my head. So I'm not I don't memorize lines. That's not my thing. That sequence is the one where I have a pivotal problem with that movie. I look at that and I go, no, that's not Batman to me. That's not what you do. And I love the movie from start to finish. It was just a terrific film, but that's the part, if you ask me what is your major pet peeve with that film, that moment. It takes a movie that I considered pretty perfect and just puts a flaw in it. And I'm fine. It's not something where as I said, it's my favorite Batman movie, but it's not perfect. There's a flaw. That sequence I have the same problem with. He didn't pull the trigger on Mirror Master, but he had every opportunity to save him right there. He knew it was going to happen, and he chose not to.
Yeah.
That's where it's murder. When you know something's going to happen and you choose to let it happen, you are just as guilty of pulling the trigger there. I have a problem with it. And that's what I'm really enjoying about this storyline is when this Barry comes to present day, what's going to happen? He's going to have to encounter Patty or Iris at some point, isn't he?
Yeah.
And what's that going to be like? You know, who is going to be the one that's going to reach this guy? I'm hoping that's what happens. It makes him realize you're off your rocker. You know, you're wrong on so many levels on what you're thinking. And I can't wait to see that. The amount of anticipation for it's funny how many things you and I are talking about that we're anticipating in this book, and even out of this book with things like Captain Cold and stuff like that. This is really where this book's succeeding. There's a lot on the table right now in the present day and in the future of the Flash universe that is really interesting. I'm excited to see the 5 year later issue of this book because obviously it's going to have to play into this storyline.
Yeah, and with me, I'm looking and I'm thinking one of 3 people are going to be the one to reach future Barry. Mm-hmm. Initially, I was thinking it's going to be present Barry, but I don't think present Barry is going to be able to convince future Barry. Agreed. We're looking at possibly either Iris, Patty, or maybe Wally. Maybe that could be the moment that, you know, future Barry sees that present Wally is different than his Wally. And he can recognize saying, hey, this kid, eventually 5 years from now becomes a cool kid, but he's already starting to show those signs. He wasn't like this with me. And maybe future, Barry can figure that out. And I think that's something, again, multiple possibilities of how this story is going to play out. And that's part of the excitement.
Maybe that will be part of the turning point for Wally.
True.
Starting to see this Flash versus our Flash, seeing the difference between the two.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's a lot of possibilities on where that can go. I'm really enjoying this storyline because of that. I mean, it's just really fantastic that there's so much on the table that's interesting. And it is the entire Flash universe that's making it fun and interesting, from his job and what the work environment's like. I like the idea that Barry will, because of the fact that he is the Flash, will make certain logic leaps knowing about superpowered villains and, extended possibilities. He'll make logic leaps that, like, his own boss will look at him like he's nuts. Or say, I can't run with that. You need to give me more in order to make that happen. This kind of stuff, I think, is really interesting right now. It's a great book. Very well written. I love that it's Robert Venditti, who I'm loving from X-O Man of War. I'm loving his work in Green Lantern, his work in The Flash. His comic work right now is fantastic. And obviously there's a writing partnership that's going on with Van Jensen here. And they're really doing a great job. It's a terrific, great book. They followed up what I consider to be a top-tier creative team that went over to Detective Comics. And they're delivering a book that I think has taken everything, the foundation that was laid out before, and they've kicked it up a notch. They've kicked it to another level, which is very, very hard to do. It's not about extending what was working before. It's about how can we take it further? How can we make people go, wow, when they were already going, wow. And take the people maybe who weren't there and get them excited. They're doing that with this book. Because I don't think you were in the same place with The Flash than I was. Are you in a different place now?
Oh, I'm definitely all on board with Flash now. I'm very excited for the book, and this is, as I said, this is a book I will recommend to people who are looking for a superhero story. They're looking for the dun-da-da kind of superhero, because this is a good, solid program. I
agree. It's really great.
Our next discussion will be on, funny, I've been calling it just Future's End, but it's the New 52 Future's End. The writer is Brian Azzarello, Jeff Lemire, Dan Jurgens, and Keith Giffen. Artist is Patrick Zurcher. Colors by Hi-Fi. Letterer Taylor Esposito, with cover by Ryan Sook. Assistant editor Kyle Azarensky. No, that's not right. ANDRUKIEWICZ. Editor Joey Cavalieri, with group editor Matt Idelson, and of course, Superman was created by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster by special arrangement with the Jerry Siegel family.
I have to laugh. I think I think we're very hard pressed to find times when we get the whole creative team correct, and that's one of the reasons why we apologize regularly for name butchery. The reason why I read off the creative credits is because we want to acknowledge the fact that wonderful people have put together these books. I know for what I do for a living, just you want to always try to get people's names correct, and we do a horrid job of that. So it's really meant with love that we do that. One of the things we talk about this, can we talk first about Superman?
Okay.
Who do you think that is under the hood? I think it's the Earth 2 Superman, myself, underneath there.
Ooh.
And I think it's the reason. I don't think it's an accident that he's hooded. I think it's the Earth 2 Superman myself. But have you had any thoughts on who it is? And actually, when I say Earth 2 Superman, that leads to a couple of possibilities.
Exactly.
But
yeah,
what are you thinking?
See, I wasn't thinking Earth 2 Superman. I wasn't thinking Clark Kent, because I think Clark may be gone. I was thinking either...
No. Hold on 1 second. Are you not caught up on Earth 2?
Not completely. No, I got one more issue.
I'm going to stand with my statement. Earth 2 Superman.
Okay.
And there's a... you said a certain name over there. I'm talking about the Earth 2 Superman. And I'll leave it at that. Okay. You'll have to get caught up on Earth 2, I think, to understand where I'm going with this.
Alrighty.
Because I'm not talking about the bad guy.
No, I know. And when I say Clark Kent, I'm talking our Earth Clark Kent.
Oh no, yeah, it's.
I don't think it's our. I don't think this is our Clark Kent. It's somebody else. That costume.
Then I'm sorry. I stand corrected. You're right. We're on the same page. I don't think it's Clark Kent.
Right.
My bets are on Earth 2. So you don't think it's Clark Kent? Then I apologize for interrupting you. What's your thought process on who it might be? Because you were obviously thinking somebody else too.
Yes, and this is going to be a bit of a reach, but part of me was wondering if, because looking at how the costume is set up, like how Wildfire was, what if it's somebody like that, where it's more of an energy person inside that costume? And one of the things that popped in my head was possibly Apollo, but he had recently just been destroyed, so that was kind of throwing off. But what if it's somebody more of an energy base, so it's not even anyone associated with Superman?
I think it's definitely a Superman. I can't help but wonder. See, I still think it's the Earth 2 Superman. I'm going to stick with that one as my.
There's a new Earth 2 Superman. Is that the one you're thinking of?
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm thinking that's who it is underneath there. The other possibility, though, when you talked about costume, another possibility entered my head. That costume looks a lot like Superboy's.
Yes. It definitely could be any of the Superboys. And you think about it, the Khan Superboy, not the John, he was kind of like an energy type of creature the last time we saw him. He was kind of a Phantom-esque type of thing. So what if he figured out a way to pull his essence in? And again, I'm thinking containment suit. When I look at that, I'm thinking, the Wildfire or Wildstorm, whatever the guy's, the Legion of Superheroes guy, your favorite character. Wildfire. I was thinking that type of character. So it could possibly be Superboy's energy essence found a way to contain it.
See, I think the mask is there to hide identity, not as a containment suit. That's why I'm thinking Earth 2 Superman.
Yeah.
I get your point about that, but I think the idea behind this is, for some reason, the Earth 2 Superman, the current Earth 2 Superman, had to take over the role. And in doing so, he had to keep everyone from realizing he's not the same Superman. He's doing this to be the symbol, because his mannerisms, he's not behaving. It could be our Clark, and something drastic happened to make him like this, but if it's not our Clark, that would explain some of his behaviors, because his behaviors are a little bit sharp compared to our Clark.
The one thing that does give him credit to being possibly our Clark is he was protective of Lois. And when the people were messing with him, he stopped that. So there could be... I don't think it is, but it definitely could be him, but he had to be... Something happened to him that he needs the concealment. But I do like your idea.
Remember, he knows Lois too, though.
Yeah, true. Okay.
A Lois.
He knows a Lois, yes.
So there would be that relationship there as well. I don't know.
And it could be, oh, God.
See, I noticed that as well, but I was thinking that was because he knows Red Tornado Lois. Right. I don't know. It's not one of those where I have to be right on it. I don't feel that way. I don't feel that kind of ownership. It's more of I like the mystery.
Yes.
I'm into this kind of thing. I don't think the mask is a throwaway. There's somebody under there that is a mystery, and I'd like to see what that mystery is. Even if it is our Clark, there's a reason why he's wearing that. That's a mystery.
Exactly, and that's I agree with you. Even if they ended up saying, no, this has been our Clark, just he's wearing this because of blank. Mm-hmm. There's a reason why he's got this costume. There's a reason why he's like this. There's something that happened to him either within the war, after the war, before the war. There's something that happened to him to make him have to go this route. And who knows what it is. And I think that's going to be a neat thing to show us, because the Superman always didn't have the mask because he's out there. It's the presence and just the public. You see his face. This is who I am. I'm one of you, kind of thing where he's not hiding. This Superman has to hide for some reason. This Superman's a little bit darker. This Superman's not wearing the cape that was the cape he was wrapped in as a child, that has the symbol of the House of L on it. This Superman isn't wearing the Kryptonian battle armor. He's wearing something else. So there's a reason why all those changes happened. And I think that, for me, again, it's something kind of neat, because even if this was Superboy grown up, they still could get away with the Kryptonian battle armor. They still could get away with the cape. They wouldn't need to completely disguise him. There's a reason he has to have that disguise on.
Deathstroke's going to be getting a new series that was announced this week. It's going to be coming, I think, in October. I might be wrong.
Nice.
I might be wrong on the month on that, so please take that with a grain of salt. But it was one of the things that popped up in our Facebook group this week. And it's going to be written and drawn by Tony Daniel.
Ooh, cool.
Yeah, I'm glad they're giving the character another shot. And part of the speculation is that it's being given another shot because of the popularity of the character on Arrow. And it's a good time. I hope that it generates some readers, because Tony Daniel's run, particularly when he was writing Batman in relation to Dick Grayson being Batman, I thought he did a really great job on that series. I thought there was some really intriguing stories going on when Dick Grayson was Batman and Tony Daniel was at the helm. I would love to see him have a crack at Deathstroke, because I think it's the right kind of character for Tony Daniel to really have fun with. And I'd like to see what that book looks like. I hope it does well, because I want to see another Deathstroke book. I greatly enjoy the character, especially when you see him in this. I think this book is doing a great job of drumming up interest in the character in the DC universe in general. Taking a look at a potential future with him, especially with Grifter. I'm liking Grifter in this a great deal. I like the trap that he's in.
Yeah.
And there's something about what's going on there. Grifter's a character who I've really grown to like. I wish his book had done better, because I was enjoying his book a great deal in the New 52 when they launched him. And I'm hoping, some of these characters that they spun out, I'm glad they didn't just dismiss them. Him being featured here prominently as part of the ongoing arc, I think is really important, because I want to know that, those series that I read had some value to the universe. So I hope they give some more of these characters another shot in solo series or in books like this, to have an impact on the universe, because we want to follow them. I want to see more of them. I think it increases buy-in to trying a series and saying, even if it's short-lived, these characters aren't just going to be dismissed.
Yeah.
They're going to do things with them that are unique and interesting. This storyline, I think, with him with the OMAC and Deathstroke, I'd read a team book with these three.
Oh, God, yes.
It's a great storyline right now.
Yeah, it cracks me up with organizations like Cadmus and Shade and all the various other secret organizations that are they good? Are they bad? Are they a little bit of both? And I think that those kind of stuff always cracks me up. And, Deathstroke, Grifter, and our little sweetheart here, those three together, once again, it's some light comic moments, some very serious moments, some future, there's going to be some butt-kicking moments coming down the line with these. And you tie it in where you've got this story, then you've got your Lois, you've got all these different stories working together and eventually heading to one point. I think it's the diversity of the characters are showing is getting me going, man, this is kind of neat. I want to know where this is going to go. And it's keeping me locked in because you get a comic moment, you get a story development moment, you get a, wow, that's kind of neat. Who is that kind of moments?
The Earth 2 heroes being locked up. You know,
Yeah.
we see a majority of them from Aquawoman to Hawkgirl and Mr. Miracle and Power Girl even. They're all locked up under lock and key by Cadmus. It's interesting to see the direction that Cadmus is going in and what's going to happen with those characters in this storyline. I do not want to see Earth 2 destroyed. I hope that whatever causes the destruction of Earth 2 is somehow averted, because I do not want to see them... As much as I want to see those characters interact with our heroes, and I do want to see that happen, I want that to be in a crossover, not because they're refugees here. That's
Well, now, the one is Wonder Woman's daughter, right?
correct.
Okay. Yeah, but who's that above her, next to Hawkgirl?
I don't know.
Because she's somebody, and I can't. I'm drawing a blank on who it is, but I remember seeing her. And I looked through the stuff, and I couldn't figure it out.
I don't know, because they have some people in generic prison outfits.
Right.
I wonder if they're like unidentified. I don't know who she is. I don't.
Okay.
Admittedly.
Okay.
So
Is this the way she's standing and she seems too much like it's just a because you look at the other just generic people, you know, the way they're standing and sitting, but the way she is just it's something about her. I'm like, she's got to be somebody. So if anybody can figure that one out, let me know.
here's the interesting part with Power Girl, and I wonder if I'm right on this one. I'm noticing something about this picture now. If you take a look at her, is that like a kryptonite that's keeping her in place? That green energy?
Possibly. It's
Take a look in the
color than everybody else.
Take a look, no, except for the guy in the upper right, which leads me to the question, is that who I think it is?
Is that the Earth 2 Superman?
I don't know.
Because that could be looking at him.
Yeah, it's an interesting possibility, because it's the same energy light. It's funny that those two characters have the same energy light. I could be reading too much into it, because actually if you look in the upper left-hand corner, there's a third beam like that. So that may be just a throwaway, because the upper left-hand corner above Deathstroke, you see you just see the portion of a cell.
Yeah, just see a little bit.
There's
of
a third one up there. So I don't know if those colors are, if I'm reading too much into them.
Well, because I look at it and I see you got pink, you got blue, and then you got the greenish tint.
Right.
And the blue looks to me to be around magic, people that I would figure would do magic to stop. Because you got Dr. Fate, you got Mr. Miracle, you got Wonder Woman's daughter, and you got the one above her.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I'm thinking those are a mystic shield. The red is more of like a physical shield. And then maybe that yellowish green energy is a kryptonite shield.
So how does that fit for Aquawoman? Because doesn't she have like a mystical power set of some sort?
Does that Earth have the mystical power set?
Aquawoman, remember?
Right.
Not Mira. It's the Aquawoman from Earth 2.
Yeah, okay.
Doesn't she have kind of like a mystical power set? I got to admit, I'm wrapping my head around her yet. I'm not as familiar. We've seen her in the sequences we have. I'm not going to pretend I'm an expert on her, though. I don't know. I would be very curious to see where this story goes for a lot of the debate that we're having right now.
Yeah.
Because the color could be a complete throwaway, or it could be very much what you're laying out. You know, you're laying out an interesting scenario there. So I can't help but wonder if it isn't tied to it. We'll find out. I think this is something throughout the story. It'll be fun to follow this and see if there's actually something to that if we're making a bigger deal out of it. I think it's cool, though. It's real interesting. The prison sequence where we see Madison visiting her dad.
Yeah.
And then Rampage, or I guess Rampage is the name of that character coming through. Or that could be just coined by Ethan. That was an interesting scenario going there, where we saw Superman saving Madison. But then we go to Mr. Terrific, who's a character. What do you think about the portrayal of Mr. Terrific in this? This is the Mr. Terrific that left our world, went to Earth 2, came back. We have some verification from him in this issue that is in fact who he is. He's different than the Mr. Terrific from before the New 52.
Right.
In his mannerisms, the way he carries himself. Do you like him? What do you think of his... I'm going to admit... I'm enjoying his storyline. I'm having a little trouble wrapping my head around him.
Yeah.
Because I'm a big fan of Michael Holt in the JSA, the one that, we had before the New 52. I don't dislike this guy, but I don't have the affection for him that I had for Michael Holt, who was like one of my favorite characters in that group. So I think it's one of the reasons why I'm like, oh, what are you doing with him? He could become that guy. He's clearly not, though.
Well, here's the one thing. You think about when the New 52 launched, they had that Mr. Terrific series.
Mm-hmm.
And that Michael Holt was a really cool guy. That was somebody I was like, man, I want to see more of this guy. This guy is different than that guy. But they also introduced the possibility of somebody else being Michael Holt. That's not the real quote-unquote Mr. Terrific. It's, because if you think about how that story ended, there was, it was, with Michael's son, prodigy, whatnot, however you want to refer to him, he was also doing the jumping back and forth. And he was a little bit darker. He was a little bit eviler, a little bit more evil. He had, just that kind of, and I could see that person growing up to being this type of person.
The only, I like your theory, because that would correct a lot of this. I don't think, though, that they're playing him out to be that guy. The only reason why is I think Brother Eye, somebody would be alluding to that at this point. Don't you think?
Unless Brother Eye has been fooled. Unless Brother Eye is just accepting what he's doing and how he's passing himself off and whatnot.
I guess here's the problem. I'm looking at how many issues we're into this series now. If that's going to be playing into it, wouldn't there be at this point at least some hints? I don't think we're seeing any hints of that.
No, not at all. So again, I will fully admit I am probably reaching on this one just because, I want to see that guy that I thought was really cool come back and do his thing. But again, this could be something part of this whole how things get resolved.
Yeah, I'm very anxious to see what's going on with this character and where they ultimately go with him. Because he's off. He's a little off from my interpretation of Mr. Terrific. He doesn't have to stay off. That can be corrected. And that can be corrected through storytelling with the character. But I don't know. And your scenario you presented is a perfectly good one for that. I just don't. That's a reach. Oof. Now that could be a developed reach in this. They need to develop it, though, if they're going to do it.
I fully agree with you on that. It's a reach, and I am kind of, a little bit on the desperate side, because, again, I did really like Michael Holt. I liked Mr. Terrific. I thought that was kind of a cool character and what they were doing with him. But, again, you got to see, this is, again, 5 years in the future. Who knows what happens to the guy? Who knows what plays out to make him a little, I'm going to say a little bit, but in reality it's a lot more of a jerk than what he was before. The whole fair play thing has been kind of thrown out the window now. It's more about money and power. So is it a possibility of the corruption? Is it possibility of arrogance? Because they do make the one comment about where Brother Eye says you're the smartest man, on your world. Whereas before he always used to say he's the third smartest intellect. Now he's saying he's the smartest. So there is an arrogance there, and you get sometimes with people who, are super smart, are super athletic, or have that something that they do better than anybody else. They'll sit there and you get that weakness where it can be exploited. You can take advantage of it. And that could be the whole basis of how Brother Eye comes to be, how Future's End comes to be, because he's getting played.
Was he considered the third smartest man on our Earth, or was it the third smartest man on Earth too? Because wasn't that thrown around with Terry Sloan?
I always thought it was our Earth.
Well, that was prior to the New 52.
Right, prior to the New 52.
And we got to keep in mind that's prior to the New 52. So this,
sure.
I don't think he's been introduced that way in the New 52. Except I know for sure he was put behind Terry Sloan, because that was when he was going over to Earth 2, and Terry Sloan was bringing up and looking at the character. The idea was that he knew that the intellect was dangerous, but it was behind his own.
Yeah.
That's Terry Sloan's own ego as well, though. So I'm intrigued by the storyline. I just love Michael Holt, and this guy does not. this guy feels like fair play is great as long as it's more fair to me. And I have an inherent problem with that because I really like Michael Holt. So I want to see the character development of this guy. I'm interested in him, so don't get me wrong on that. I don't dislike following the character's story. I just don't have the connection to him that I did the previous Mr. Terrific, and I want that.
I want to see the why. I want to see what made him this way. And I think that if you get a character that where you want to know the why, you want to know the whatnot behind the person, I think that means the creative team is doing something right. Where there is a curious nature. Whereas, like you have a throwaway character, I don't care where they came from. This is a character I do care about. I do want to see what happens to him and how he got to this point.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. That's a good way to put it. Now, a character I really do like the development of is Terry McGinnis. I really like what they're doing with him in this.
Oh, God, yeah.
It's a dangerous character to bring to the main universe to like make him an integral part of it like this, because I really have always enjoyed Batman Beyond as a concept. You don't want to see that somehow sullied by doing this. Wow, are they doing a really great job of making it relevant to all of us. I love the character. I love what they're doing with him. I like the way Holt's following him. I like that there's things that he's bringing from his world, like the cyborg.
Well, to Plastique.
Right, Plastique.
We now know who that is. I think that's kind of interesting.
It is. That's very interesting because you've got the opportunity for him to meet the younger version. Yeah. Really a terrific storyline going on there.
And this could be the connection. Why? Because if you remember back from that Zero issue, it was Justice League. It was Batman Inc. assaulting on the Batcave, and then because we had her, we're like, who is that? And we couldn't figure out who this person was. Well, now maybe this is the reason she was hanging out with Batman Inc. Maybe Terry brings her into the fold somehow, or gets her associated with the Bat Universe somehow. And it's something that it's what is the past, is coming through and affecting the future in ways we didn't know yet.
Right. It's very interesting. I really like what's going on here. Now, the one person I want to see him encounter is Tim Drake.
Yeah.
With the whole the Teen Titans were dead, but we know now he's a survivor of all of that. Terry McGinnis and Tim Drake, I want to see that team up.
Yes. Well, and again, it's why is Tim Drake hiding? Why is Tim Drake not being, himself? What happened there aside from the death of all his friends? Because that could very easily be the sole reason why he went into hiding, why he's not being who he is, because he witnessed this horrific accident or witnessed these horrific events, and it's why or is there something more to it? And I think, again, anything with Tim, any cool stories with Tim, I'm always interested.
How do we get this Hawkman outfit to present day? I don't know. There's got to be a way to do that. I'll even take him one-armed. Because I really dig this Hawkman outfit. I think it's a really cool Hawkman outfit. And I'm really loving, as a geeky Hawkman fan who's been looking for, I feel like he's, kind of like we were talking about with Mr. Terrific, I feel like I've been missing my Hawkman. I'm starting to see him in what's going on in Justice League United, what's going on here. I'm starting to see my Hawkman back again. I saw him in Justice League of America too, but he was such a cameo character that I never really got to see a lot of development here. Now we're starting to see a lot of great Hawkman in the DC universe. And this whole bit with the nth metal, he just kind of gets up. It's great. What did you do to my arm? I was hoping that something was going to play out with that, and I just love that he was the one that got up and is ready to go.
Now, does he get his arm back, or are we going to be dealing with a one-armed Hawkman? And if so, what arm does Frank get? Because if I was Frank, I'd go with Midnighter's arm.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, you got to choose which arm you're going to take. Yeah, I guess I would take Midnighter's arm too. That's true. Or are they going to make Hawkman patchwork too? I don't know.
Or can they even?
Yeah, I don't know.
Metal's tough, but could he take his own arm back and fuse it back together? Because they were able to reattach it to Frank, because that's what Frank is. Hawkman's not exactly that. So.
Well, you read the most recent issue of Justice League United.
Okay.
It directly plays into a lot of this. In the concept of what the nth metal really does for Hawkman.
Okay.
I'm really greatly, but this outfit, like if I'm looking for a Hawkman outfit right now, I really like this outfit. I don't like the helmet that he has in present day. That ornate helmet is crazy nuts. This is more clean. It's more, I don't know. Hawkman's a little grittier to me.
Yeah.
You know, there's something about this that just it works much better. It's the headdress, really. I could take everything else from his current present-day outfit. It's just I want this headdress. I like the battle armor, though.
Yeah, and I actually will concur with you on how this outfit does look really cool on Hawkman. I do like this where it's just, it's the main breastplate, it's the helmet, and he does have, the shoulder and some forearm protection. It's the remnants of, the gladiator type of armor where it still gives massive maneuverability, but there's protection of the vital organs.
Yes, but it's not like overdone.
Right.
Like, remember that movie Excalibur?
Yeah.
He looks like he should be on one of the horses in present day, like riding along with King Arthur. That's not Hawkman to me. Yeah. Not that I dislike the storytelling with the character. I've enjoyed the storytelling with him, but this is a really good-looking Hawkman armor. This is like really what I want to see in present day from the character. I think this is like they're on the right track with this. If they could somehow send that through time and him find it and go, hey, this looks cool. I would be a happy camper. Although this is supposed to spit this, it's the nth metal, right? So it comes from his body. So if they could just put the idea in his head, I think that's all you really need to do. So maybe like get him to Martian Manhunter somehow and just say, hey, Hawkman's having a little trouble with his fashion sense. Can you implant this? I would be a happy camper. That's really just like, I guess he could a DC Universe fashion police or something. I don't know.
I think we're going to get plenty of future heroes seeing or interacting with their past personas. I think in my head, I don't know exactly how it's going to play out yet. But I think that's going to be with the end of the Future's End. It's not just going to be Terry McGinnis doing his one jump. There are going to be other heroes. There's going to be I'm assuming there's going to be like a vortex that's going to create or something, and it'll give people present day that glimpse of what's going to happen.
Right.
And present day can then affect it. I think. That's my guess is how this is going on. Because that's something I always got to remind myself when I read Future's End. This is 5 years in the future. This is not present day. And I always got to keep throwing that out in my head because, this is what could happen. But there's got to be something. And I don't know who the character, how it's going to happen. But I see like a vortex of some type thing. And it's part of me is wondering if we get people like Mr. Terrific, we get the character back. To the character we're used to, dealings with Ray Palmer and all these other characters who get this glimpse of the future, who learn about what could possibly happen in the future and say, hey, it's time to put the egos aside and we've got to solve this. We got to be the heroes now. And it's something like that.
I like Frankenstein and Amethyst being in this. I'm really enjoying them. Ray Palmer, Shade. Yeah. These are characters who I was very interested in their titles. And they were some of the lower selling titles, they didn't quite make it in the DC universe. I loved them. I really thought they were interesting stories. So I'm glad as a geeky fan who's been following the whole line, and I'm hoping there's people who are like me who are reading this because it's, a big whole universe event that are like, wow, I'm seeing some of these familiar characters. They're being handled so well in this. They are. For me, Hawkman, I really am as much as we joke about it on the show, I'm a big Hawkman fan. And to see him handled so well right now in 2 different books is making me really happy. Same thing with Frankenstein, who I've become a fan of big time through his solo series. And I loved, the last issue, they had that moment where he went out into space one-armed.
Yeah. Because
he had to recover his girlfriend himself.
Yes.
He had to be a part of that. He wouldn't, even though they were saying, due to his handicap, he's like, nah, I got to go out. This is, because that storyline was so important to me, when it was going on in Frankenstein's book, when he was with the, creature commandos and all that. I really dug all of that. So seeing that not be a throwaway was something that was really well handled for me. That's where continuity matters, and it's important that creators and editors and all that and companies are aware. This is what makes people so fiercely loyal to your universe. I have no problem with the fact that the New 52 I love the New 52. I like the concept. The reason why they sold me on it is Flashpoint. Flashpoint's connectivity to the previous universe means that all of that happened. There's a connecting point. This is a sidestep, but it's connected. Those stories matter. So that rich history is a part of this tapestry that we've got here. You gotta, though, when you have books that have been put into place, you've got to have those connecting. It's one of the reasons why, look at our debate about Mr. Terrific.
Yeah.
We feel he's a little off, and we want to see why. He's the one character I would think we would say that about in this whole thing, that, like, what happened to him? And I want to know. I'd like to see a story. I'd like to see it developed in here for us to know what happened to this guy to make him the way he is now. I want to see that. I don't dislike it. I feel that there is a missed opportunity if that story's not told, because I know we can't be the only people feeling that way.
And I think they've intentionally done that with him. So I'm assuming we're going to get that story.
Yeah.
Because the creative, you look at who the creators are behind this story, they're all really good. They know what they're doing. So yes. I'm assuming he's intentionally written that way to get us asking these questions, to get us thinking this route, and then they're going to show us, okay, here's what happened to Mr. Terrific to make him this way. I don't know where or how it's coming out, but I'm assuming we're going to get that.
Can we talk real quickly about the Suicide Squad sneak preview?
Oh, yeah.
In particular, this is how you do a costume for Deadshot. I know we talked about this before on the show when we saw kind of the teaser image, the cover of what the costumes potentially. Now we actually see it in practice when we see him in that one page where it says pure insanity. You see Deadshot there with the gun firing it and all that stuff. I love this costume because it's new 52-ish in the sense that they're modernizing the costume, but to me it's enough of what I liked about him in Secret Six. Even his whole look, like when the mask is off, that's Floyd. I mean, this is really the art and the evolution of the character. I'm a big fan of Secret Six. You are. I don't know about you. I'm like, yes, Floyd Lawton is back. Yeah. I love the look. It was a step forward in the right direction for this book. I like the lineup here that they're showing us. Like, I want to see Joker's daughter, Black Manta, Harley, Deathstroke. These are characters who they need to be in the forefront. I want to see what's going on with this book. It's an intriguing opening. The artwork on it in particular and the storytelling, at least in the first few pages, this looks interesting for me.
Yeah, I didn't know when I heard Joker's daughter and Harley, I didn't know how that's going to play out to me. Because I love Harley and I love Joker's daughter. So both characters are really cool. But the two of them on the same team, I didn't know how I was going to feel about it until seeing them actually interact. And of course, you initially have to have Harley want to, cut the face off of Joker's daughter. And Joker's daughter saying, hey, you're just jealous because he didn't choose you. So there's going to be some neat stuff happening down the line between the two of them. I didn't know where it's going to go. And I am curious to see if those two ever make amends or if they're always going to be at each other's throats.
I don't know. That part's going to be really interesting. That's the stuff I want to see. I actually really want to see that. So they've got me excited. Did you hear at all this week about the 2 new Batman series being launched?
No.
In October, there's going to be Gotham Academy, and it looks like it's going to. They're both in continuity. This Gotham Academy has 3 characters. Olive Silverlock, Maps, and Kyle. And it also says there's a ghost in the Northern Hall, features oddball teachers, and nothing is as strange as the students. The series promises to feature new characters and old, plus a secret tie to Gotham's past. So I'm curious to see where this book's going to go with Gotham Academy. But there's also Arkham Manor is coming. Wayne Manor is going to be turned into the asylum.
Ooh. Is that can't be continuity.
It is continuity. So that's going to be an interesting thing to go on. Stately Wayne Manor is getting made over into the local psycho dungeon. So, woof. who knows if that's going to spin out of Batman Eternal or what's going on. So we'll see.
And I could see, in a way, it's funny because I can see Bruce doing that and keeping the cave underneath, keeping himself really close to the crazies.
I don't know. Yeah, we don't know how it gets to this point.
Yeah,
but
I don't know.
Those are two of the new series that are going to be coming out in October. So I'm interested. Both of them look very interesting. I like the Gotham Academy because it looks like there'll be a chance for introduction of certain characters that new characters to the universe, but also maybe some old characters that we've been longing for. And I don't know. I kind of want to see where that's all going to go. So exciting new books that are going to be, because they've been canceling some of them, like Batwing and stuff like that are going. Yeah. So this is an opportunity to fill in some of those blanks. Birds of Prey is being canceled. So
I know. It's wrong.
Well, but
I understand. Yeah.
And there's no law that says that those won't be relaunched in some capacity. They've got to do Birds of Prey again I hope they do Birds of Prey again at some point.
Yeah, I'm digging Birds of Prey, and I was digging Batwing. I'm like, man, why are you guys getting rid of the ones I like? But then again, there's very few titles that I say I don't like. There's some really good solid stuff coming out, so it's a tough thing to say what is actually, what's working, what's that level of, okay, this isn't, let's try this isn't, let's try that. So it's, I don't know, part of me wonders, because I'm sitting and I'm glad that they're trying new stuff, because like you, I like to get some diversity. I like to let's try this story, let's try that story. But also part of me wonders if they cut down on the number of titles, would that help like a title like Birds of Prey? If they didn't have so many out there, if like you got 3 titles you're going to cut, okay, instead of cut all 3, just cut 2 of them. And give that one title that wasn't at the same level as everybody else a chance after all these people say, okay, I don't have these 2 titles. Hey, let me give this book a try, or let me give The Flash a try. Maybe, by not putting something in to replace it, maybe they could beef up their sales.
The only problem I have with that, I get what you're saying, and it's interesting to say that. The big problem you start doing that, though, and this is where we run into a real issue, is you start limiting the opportunity for new ideas by the fact that you start saying, okay, we're going to start cutting down the universe. Instead of going to 52 titles, let's go to 45. Instead of 45, let's go to 40. Instead of 40, let's go to 35, and really try to get numbers on those 35 books. The problem is you're going to have certain characters that you're going to have multiple titles for. There's less opportunity to try and experiment with new characters. I'd rather have them stick to more titles, try new characters. Some of them are going to stick, some of them are not going to. And that happens. It's part of experimentation. And if you start paring down the universe, in a perfect world, what you're saying is what would happen. You'd get an attach rate, and then you'd start expanding. Cool, if that actually happened. The problem is what would happen if you're getting less and less of an attach rate, you're going to keep shrinking down the universe because there's not enough financial dollars coming in to keep the universe going. So it's an interesting, because it's all about money and sales, and that's really the truth of the matter. That part of it it's the part we don't, as fans, like to talk about. I'd rather have these new series, quote unquote, being launched as extended miniseries, and them trying them, and then some of them stick from time to time, than them not trying those. I'm giddy as can be that they're doing a Deathstroke series again. Because Deathstroke was canceled.
Right.
They went through 2 creative teams and they canceled it. Now they're going to bring it back because there's a popularity on Arrow. So hopefully this is another book that they'll experiment with. I like Gotham Academy because it's an experimental book. It's new, it's different from the other Batman titles. So there's an opportunity for that book to maybe tell some unique stories because it has a Gotham label, and to be a different sort of book in the universe. So I like that experimentation, and I want them to keep doing that versus always going to because here's the problem. If they cut down on those titles, they're going to probably keep Arkham Manor, and they wouldn't do Gotham Academy.
Right.
Because the Gotham Academy is probably the riskier book out of the
definitely.
2. And I want the riskier book out there.
Okay.
That's and you don't have to agree with me.
No, I hear you.
My take is I'd rather have them release more titles and see what sticks. Experiment. Let's really try to stick to 52 books.
I like the experiment, so I'm not going to argue with what they're doing. Part of me always wondered about that, if they could save a title by only cutting 2 instead of 3, and just I don't know. It's but I agree with you. I am curious with the Gotham Academy. I'm curious with the Wayne Arkham Manor. Mm-hmm. I want to see where that happens, how it plays out. So it's, again, I'm So, but it's funny, as we've been talking, I've been reading the DC All Access. That's at the end of the Futures Ed number 9. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to completely concur with you on your statement as to who Superman is. Because they talk about who the new Superman of Earth 2 is. Mm-hmm. And they talk about how issue 25 of Earth 2, it starts, but then there's also the upcoming Earth 2 World's End weekly series. I'm like, okay, I'm thinking Sean's right. And
I don't know. Let's see I'm very curious to see what happens with that upcoming story. They got me excited. This is something that's really great right now. I'm really excited for these books. Earth 2 is a book that I'm really thrilled with the success of it because it seems to be doing well number-wise, and I just hope that book continues on as a series, in story direction-wise,
right?
Because it's different. It's, because you've got that unique universe and World's Finest. I know they're going to be going to, with the whole weekly series coming out, World's End, and the fact that Power Girl and Huntress are going to be a part of all that, that series is now going to be about, at least for temporary purposes, it's going to be about the Batman and Superman of that world prior to Earth 2 launching, which I like that. I want to know some of that history, so I'm cool with that.
Cool.
So that series is going to go on. I think Levitz is still writing that, but he's going to do the historical piece. I'm hoping, because I like Levitz's writing a great deal on that book. So I'm excited to see where all of this is heading. It's a fun time to be a DC fan. I think there's some great storytelling going on right now. You might not be like us and enjoying every book. I enjoy every book to different degrees, though. There's some books that are good books, as opposed to the books. I really have 3 categories. I have good books that are just kind of like, I'm enjoying the storytelling of it. I don't feel the need to reread. I'm enjoying it. I'm glad I'm following along with this character. I have books that, I can't wait to reread because I want to, delve into the art and the story and everything like that. And then I have books that are great, that are, maybe in a build right now. And I know they're in a build, and I'm really, really excited for the build. So it really falls into 3 different tiers for me. And that typically is how my stack goes. I start with the ones that are giving me the most excitement. I really have a tough time right now if I had to put together a top 5 or a top 10 of books I'm enjoying from DC, though. Because they tend to change from month to month based on where the storylines are at. I don't know if you're having that jump around, exactly. But I am. My top 10 is really crazy.
Yeah, and with me, because I had a lot of craziness that happened on my end, that I got behind on all my reading. So now my prioritizing on my reading has been based on what are we going to talk about on the show. I got to jump on that. I got to get that. So, right now my prioritizing isn't based on what I'm really enjoying. And cause normally I have I must jump on this as soon as it come out. Well, that's kind of gotten put on hold because I'm so far behind on all my titles. So I got to make sure I get caught up in here because we're doing this. We're doing this next. Let me get caught up here. Let me do that. So
a lot of the books that I'm enjoying right now, though, I like sometimes when, life, because I've run into the same situation with work. I run in periods where I finally get caught up and I'm like, yes, victory, I'm all caught up. But then, life and work kind of gets into, when my mom was sick, I got behind on my reading. Work got me behind on reading this year. That's life. I think we all face that reality. Sometimes it's fun to take 2 or 3 issues of a book, though, and just be able to read them and just kind of delve into the story. There's a certain amount of storytelling depth you get when you do that. I haven't had anything where I've done that and felt like, wow, that wasn't worth my time. That's where you're in trouble. That's when a book's in trouble, when you hit the point. And honestly, I would encourage anybody to listen to this. If you've got that book where you've been stockpiling it and you read those issues, that's a great test. It's a litmus test in my eyes. If you read 3 issues of a book in a row and kind of go to yourself, wow, that was really a chore to get through, there's a whole bunch of titles to choose from. Choose something else immediately, because that's a book where you're probably afterwards going, wow, I'm a little miffed about this one, or I'm not, enjoying it as much as I would like to. Get onto something else that you don't feel that way, because I genuinely feel my stockpile titles when I read them. I feel there was something worthwhile at the end to reading them. Where I'm like, yes, this is a victory. It was a good story, and let me know something more about the character that I'm really into. If you don't get that feeling, there's something wrong. Not with you. Just the title isn't. It doesn't mean it's a bad book. It just means it's not for you.
Right.
Let's talk about Batman Eternal. Issue number 13. Infernal Relations. It's Scott Snyder and James Tynion IV on story. James Tynion IV on script. Ray Fawkes, John Layman, and Tim Seeley are contributing writers. Mikel Janin and Guillermo Ortego on art. Jeremy Cox on colors. Steve Wands on letters. Dustin Nguyen on the cover. Matt Humphreys, associate editor. Katie Kubert, editor. Mark Doyle is the group editor. And Batman, of course, created by Bob Kane. And apologies for any name butchery. I'm going to say this about both the weekly series. I don't think we kind of emphasized this enough on the last discussion. I am endlessly impressed by creative teams working together to put together a weekly book. Because these books feel typically very tight in the story that they're delivering. And you've got a group of people working on it, whether you're contributing or you are the main writers or however that works. The dynamic, just from the way that the cover credits are for this particular book, or I should say the inside credits are for this book, versus the way that they are in the New 52 Futures End, I'm wondering if the books are being handled differently and how they're coordinating. But I like that there's a different sort of experience between both books that I'm really, really digging. This issue for me, though, was... anytime you have, I got to tell you, James Gordon Jr., Scott Snyder, when he brought that character back before the New 52 and really started hitting a home run with this character. And then we've seen this character in Batgirl, and we've seen this character back in the Bat books, and then in Suicide Squad. He is an MVP character in the DC universe that I just love to read about. He's twisted, but he's smart. He's so many different things. This real conversation, when you're sitting around and reading an issue where two people are sitting at a table and you're going, oh my gosh, I wish this moment would not stop.
Yeah.
They're sitting at a table.
Yeah,
and it's the greatest dialogue bit that I've read in a while. The tete-a-tete between the two of them and the philosophical battle that's going on there, where, this is his son. He's realized that he's alive now when he thought he was dead. So this is your realization. Your life has caved from out from underneath you. You hunted Batgirl, who Jim Gordon may or may not realize is his daughter. You've hunted her down. Subconsciously, I do think the guy knows to some extent that that's his daughter. You can make that argument, though. Regardless, though, he hunted down Batgirl because he thought Batgirl killed his son. His son's right there.
Yeah.
And his son could have done this at any point in time, come and said, hello, Dad. He waited till now when he was in prison because he felt this was the time for Dad to really understand him.
Yeah.
So, in other words, Dad had to go through this whole train disaster in order for his son to reach out and say, hey, Dad, let's have some father-son time. I mean, the whole bit of this was just priceless and so well written.
The thing that gets with this whole sequence, when last issue, the ending was, what, you're alive? And he's like, of course, and then this dialogue that's just going back and forth, and you can see just the cold, just the emotionless expressions that James Jr. has, and you can see just that rage building in Jim Gordon, and you just see that fire and that passion. And this is it's beautiful artwork telling the story. Mm-hmm. It's a simply, but they're just sitting at a table talking, and I'm still going yes, 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 because you just immediately start thinking off page. The first thought that popped in my head was, is James Jr. the big bad? Is he the one? Because you think about that very first issue of Batman Eternal. We've got Bruce Wayne, completely defeated, and the city's burning, and somebody off camera is talking to him and calling him Bruce, not calling him Batman. So he knows the secret identity, and he's completely dismantled the Bat, completely taken down Batman. Is James Jr. the big bad, or is there still one more person yet to be revealed? Because I don't believe Falcone's the big bad.
What we don't know yet is how Deacon Blackfire plays into this. Remember, we saw that already in Eternal.
Oh, yeah,
so
yeah.
There is... I wonder if it's Falcone operating in charge, if Falcone's operating on a team, if somebody's driving Falcone. You're right, there's more to the puzzle to be revealed yet. because we don't know quite how that all plays together. How does Blackfire play into this? We haven't seen that yet. Are there other players to be named as a part of this? I don't know. So I don't know. I don't know how Falcone's role as the leader plays into this. Is he in charge, or is there somebody driving him? You're asking a really good question there. I don't know if it's as simple as somebody being in charge of Falcone, or if he's teamed up with somebody else. Because this could be a villain team-up.
Yeah, see, I see Falcone being used, or because, he's this mob boss, and he is this big, powerful, big bad, and yes, he is a dangerous individual, but again, you talk about the arrogance. You talk about just being if you're a really intelligent person, you can manipulate somebody like Falcone. You can play the puppet master. And James Jr., to me, is one of the great puppet masters that they have in the universe. And I could see him being able to manipulate and make Falcone think, I'm in completely charge. I'm the boss of bosses. No, you're not. Surprise.
What if, though, see, I guess here's my question. I always think James Jr. is a wild card, more of a joiner. I don't see him necessarily falling in line with Falcone unless it fits his ends. And I don't see that fitting his ends right now. I think what we see here is his opportunity to reveal himself to Dad. That doesn't mean that he's going to go away or he's not going to be a player in this, but I think he's going to remain an interesting wild card in all this. Remember the times he defended Batgirl because he didn't want somebody else to kill her? That was for him to do. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
I see him being that kind of character where I don't see him being content with falling in line with any of them. And I also don't see him being the one to run Falcone. I don't see that happening. I don't see Falcone's ego allowing that. Because you mentioned egos. And I think they would have the same problem. I do think that we aren't done with James Jr., and I think we're going to see James Jr. have an active role in taking advantage of the chaos. But it's going to be in James' unique, twisted way. I see him manipulating situations versus being the puppet master in this. Blackfire, on the other hand, I think is your major player that you're looking for. But I don't know that necessarily means that Falcone's subservient, as far as, or did he make a deal with the devil where they're partners? Or Falcone thinks he's a partner. Sometimes those things happen too, where you think you're in charge, but really the other guy's taking advantage of you, which could be what you're alluding to. And if you are, I do agree with that being the possibility.
That's what I see happening. 100. That's 100% what I think is going on. I think Falcone thinks he's in charge. He thinks he's the man, and he's not really. Mm-hmm. And whether it's James Jr., whether it's Blackfire, or whether it's still somebody else that we don't know who it is, there's somebody else who's pulling the strings and who's laying down the grand plan of everything. Because you think about it, we saw that glimpse into the future where Catwoman is running the city, where Bluebird is an agent for Batman, and there's all this type of stuff we see going down the line. Well, if Catwoman's in charge, and Falcone's taken out, well, guess what? If he was the big bad, then that would end the story, and it's not ended. So there's somebody else out there who, when Falcone went down, they're like, fine, I don't need him anymore. I've already gotten part A done. Falcone was part A. Falcone, that's done. Now I'm on to part B or part C or, whatever number you want to go with.
Yeah. I don't know yet. It's the story with the fact that it's going to be going some 60 issues. I'm not quite sure what we're going to, because we're 13 issues in. There's a lot on the table here. That's already been, a lot of players been put on the table. There's a lot of story depth to be told here. We have not seen Blackfire come to the forefront yet. As far as we've seen the appearance, but that's it. So there's a lot of story to be told there. And this feud between Falcone and Penguin is still in its infancy.
Yeah.
So I don't know. You're right. There's a lot of possibilities that are on the table. I don't know if I'm that ready to pin down to there being necessarily the need for other players, because I think everybody that's on the table right now still needs further development. But through that development might open the opportunities you're talking about. So that's where I'm enjoying the ride right now. I want to see a lot of this and how it plays out. I'm loving like things like Batgirl being brought into the series and Jason Todd,
yes,
and them having debates and how Jason's relating to Batgirl's current situation. And, you know, the two of them butting heads because he can kind of see she's in the same place that not only I have been in the past, but maybe it could be argued that I'm in right now because that's who I am. And I really have loved, I think he's been a great victory in the New 52, the handling of Jason Todd.
Yes.
I think he's been very relevant, and bringing him into this and bringing him back into the Bat family fold in the way that they have in the New 52, I think has been really important. They haven't taken away the fact that he's not instantly like the new Nightwing, if that makes sense.
Right.
He's still Jason Todd, and he has Jason Todd's issues, but certain things have softened just enough that he and Bruce can have a conversation without knives being thrown, which I quite like. There's something to that, and his conversations with Batgirl can happen and things like that, with the discomfort that should come with it being Jason Todd.
And he can have conversations with any member of the Bat family, I think is kind of neat, especially with, you think about, Barbara and Dick Grayson's connection, and Jason and Dick Grayson's connection, and now with all of them thinking he's dead. Mm-hmm. I thought that was kind of neat that those two kind of had a interaction sort of connection on some levels as well between the two of them. So there was, again, he is that great character for them to pull in every so often that, Tim, who's awesome, wouldn't have had the same type of connection with Barbara.
Amen.
We needed Jason for that sequence. We needed him to be the one to reach out to Barbara because anybody else in the Bat family is too tight in the Bat family. They need an insider who's also an outsider. And I think that was a great character to use for that. Commissioner
Forbes and Lieutenant Bard. Lieutenant Bard is so much so Robin from the recent Batman films. What happened in Dark Knight Rises?
Yes.
I liked seeing that he had his own plan going there, and that we as the reader didn't really know what that plan was until he talked to Batman and said, part of that plan is going to be us capturing you. And we're kind of like, what? What's he doing here? I liked the way that this all played out, that he had a plan like, okay, our frustration is we keep arresting these gang members and get nowhere.
Yep.
How can I use all of the resources to force Forbes' hand? Not realizing this is probably going to cause a much bigger problem than he'd realized. The way this played out with Bullock and with all of that, I just thought and Vicky Vale, great use of Vicky Vale as a character. I really enjoy seeing her. I've been watching through Riff Tracks. They've been riffing. Do you know what Riff Tracks is? It's the they've been riffing one of the original Batman serials, and Vicky Vale's featured prominently in it. So it's kind of cool to see those classic film serials with Bruce and Dick Grayson and Vicky Vale, and then seeing a present day version of Vicky Vale playing into all this. It's, for me, I'm just kind of like doing this classic Batman geek out, and I highly recommend, actually, for anybody if you haven't listened to Riff Tracks before, it's the people that do Mystery Science Theater 3000. They have a site, it's called rifftracks.com, and you can purchase and download each episode of the serial. And what they do is they have their own like comedy track that goes along with the actual serial, where they kind of make fun of it and have like laughs with it and things like that. It's hysterical. I really have enjoyed it. And the great part is I think it's like 99 cents or $1.99 an episode or something like that. It's really cheap. So you can try one of the episodes and see if it's for you. If the comedy's not your cup of tea, you don't have to buy the whole package in order to give it a shot. But I really enjoy their sense of humor. So the material for me is perfect. But for Batman fans, if you've never tried it, it's probably a good jumping on point to try some of their content. I just wanted to shout them out real quick just because the Vicky Vale thing for me has been great. I like that Bard's putting together a team, though, of people he can trust. Major Sawyer, Bullock, these are people that I want on my side as we're going in. Pulling in the Batman universe, for those of us that are reading books like Batwoman and stuff like that, we're getting the whole team from the Gotham police force put together, the people that we know you can trust, put in for this mission that he's clearly pulling these people close. Bard is a character that I want to see out of this continue in the Batman universe.
Oh, big time.
They are really doing a great job of really crafting him well into this as being a major player.
And I love the fact that when he first comes into play, no one knows him, nobody trusts him. But as it's playing out, you first get a guy like Bullock who goes, okay, he reminds me of Jim Gordon. That's why Gordon picked this guy. He's an okay guy. And he then brings in Maggie because Maggie doesn't know she can trust him. Well, Bullock's vouching for this guy. You got to hear him out. And I think that, for me, was a really cool, again, some really great cop writing. You got to get that kind of, it's, just because you all got a badge, just because you all are supposedly on the blue team, guess what? Mm-hmm. That doesn't necessarily mean squat. And we're seeing that. You got some corrupt guys. You got some good guys. You got these guys that they don't know, can I trust this person? Well, guess what? I trust this guy. He's vouching for him. I'm going to trust him. And you're getting that working in. And you're even, when they go through the busts, those officers who are on the ground, they're like, wait, that's Falcone Rose. Looks like a bat to me. Yes, sir, it does. And that officer clicks in their head. Okay, this is how we're going to take down these gang violence. Because the regular cops, the beat cops are seeing what's going on. They want to take down. Everybody other than the commissioner wants to stop this violence. So guess what? Now they're seeing their opportunity. I love just how it's a build. It's a fight. They've got to figure out a way to work around the system. Again, great cop writing.
I like the development of a bullpen for the Gotham Gazette.
Yeah.
This is something that I don't recall them doing. And if they did, I've read so much Batman over the years. I can't pretend I've read every single issue, but like the majority of my comic reading for my entire life has been Batman. I don't remember this kind of depth to the development of Gotham Gazette. It's always been kind of, you'd focus on like Vicky Vale. I'd like to see more of this done, where I liked their comparison to Metropolis. Just saying, I'm looking for the kind of story that gets Daily Planet notice. We don't want to be this paper that's kind of behind the scenes. It's more relevant today when papers really need to be noticed in order to get readership, because there's so much competition out there with the internet and the news on television, the immediacy that we have today. Papers have to be breaking with things that are cutting edge that nobody else can get. And their commentary about how these type of stories, we don't see them nowadays. We really don't in our papers, because most of the papers don't have the staff to do this kind of thing anymore. We know from our own Cleveland Plain Dealer that they've cut back so much on their staff, their writing staff, and their investigative staff, that the hard-hitting journalism that we were used to, and that's no insult to the people that are working there now, they do a wonderful job. My wife and I still get the Plain Dealer. It's a great paper, but they don't have the kind of staff that they used to have. It's definitely a much smaller paper than it used to be because of that particular issue. So I love when I see stuff like this where it matches today's mentality and today's reality of what newspapers are. So Vicky having this kind of debate and really putting her own neck on the line here, and she's basically told that, hey, you screw this up. I know you're up to something. You screw this up. That's it. It's really a relevant tale, and she knows she's on to something big. She's what we like about Lois Lane, in the sense that she believes in her story. She wants to one-up the competition. She does not want to be the watered-down Lois Lane. She wants to be Vicky Vale. She wants the tagline. And there's something that's different about her than Lois, but at the same time, the competitive nature that makes her a strong journalism should feel similar. I love that. It just feels right in this sequence. It's a great story sequence.
There's a difference between a journalist and an investigative journalist. Uh-huh. There is the people who just take the information, re-report it, comment maybe on it, but not too heavy. And then you got the people who actually go out and hunt down that story and fight for it. Lois is an investigative reporter. She goes out there, she gets in the trenches, she puts her life on the line. Vicky Vale is also that type of person. I like seeing that aggression and that strong character, personal character come out in her. It's kind of the neat stuff where you see Jimmy Olsen, because a lot of your photojournalists, a lot of the camera guys, they are a little bit on the crazy side. You have to be to throw yourself in the middle of that mess, and still have the composure and still have the mental factions to pick up the camera, take the couple shots, and then dodge the bullet. And you've seen so many different type of wars correspondent journalists who get killed because they're pursuing the story. If you're think about a city, if Gotham actually existed, you would need people like Vicky. You would need people like Lois who actually say, okay, I'm going to put safety and the easy way way out, to a back seat. I'm going to risk it all because I'm going after this story. We got something huge about to happen. I'm going to take the shot. And I love seeing, again, the supporting cast. You need to have this strength within your support. So far in in a lot of these sequences, we haven't even seen Bruce Wayne. We haven't seen Batman. Yet we're still going, oh, this is awesome.
Yes. Amen. With Vicky Vale, I want to say one other thing about her as a character. When you talk about romances for Batman, Vicky's been one of those that in past storytelling, Vicky's been a romantic interest of Bruce's. It's been one of those where it's a real stretch for me a lot of times to kind of figure out why would Bruce be so drawn to her. Like there were, depending on the storytelling, I got Silver St. Cloud. I understood what the attraction was there. Catwoman, obviously you get, it's Talia, you get. There's something about them that's dynamic and interesting. And even though they have questionable morals, you can also get the side of them that Bruce would be attracted to, considering the world that he travels in. Sasha Bordeaux, we were big fans of that character. I get Bruce's attraction to her. Vicky Vale's been one of those, you really got to write her well in order for me to understand why Bruce would have an attraction. This is developing into a Vicky Vale that I could see Bruce going, okay, yes. I kind of get her. And that's really good writing when you're all of a sudden going, I can see why Batman would kind of go, I'm intrigued by this person. He would also be scared of this person finding out too much.
Yeah, see, I agree with everything you're saying. With the strength of her personal strength and conviction, mm-hmm. Bruce would say, hey, how you doing? But the fact that she is the level of journalist she is, I think Bruce would keep her at arm's length just to protect the scene.
But would he keep her closer to see what she knows? See, it depends on the storytelling. I know where you're. I'm not disputing you. It depends on if he was investigating. If she was investigating him and investigating the possibility of him being Batman, would he push her away or keep her closer so that he would know how to counter what she's found? It's a slippery slope because everything you're saying is true. This isn't disputing you, but it would depend on what she's doing, what he would do.
Exactly. I agree with that. Agree with that completely.
It's a great character development, though, that why are we having this debate? Because of how she's being written right now.
Yes.
If she was just a background character, we wouldn't care. And I love that she is another person dismissive of this Cluemaster storyline. Yeah. Like this Cluemaster thing, there's something big going on there right now. This is a guy who normally is a throwaway, second-rate Riddler and all that, but he's got big things going on right now, and she's another one dismissing it, which leads us back to Steph, who another MVP character in this storyline is Stephanie Brown.
Yeah.
This is a great way to bring her in and make her relevant. It's tricky because the New 52 launched and people are demanding, and I agree. I love the characters that people are throwing out. So a lot of times, we'll go that we're very happy with the universe and all that, and I am. I miss those characters too, though. So when people throw out potential characters that they want to see in the New 52, I'm like, yeah, I'd love to see that character, but I want to see him done like this. This is what you do. If you want to bring in a Stephanie Brown, you do this. You develop a storyline where she's compelling and relevant, and she's a central focus. This, you can't help. This is like Run, Lola, Run. I mean, this is you can't help but watch this intensity and just know every step that she's making, every person that she's coming in contact with are in danger or a danger to her. Where do you turn? Who do you turn to? This is a development of why she would become spoiler. Why do you have to go underground? Because you're not safe from anybody. This is great. It's a really, really great development of the character. I really am loving this story.
God, yeah. Hey, at Gotham 101 Survival Guide, if you get a mysterious package, run. Don't open it. Don't look at it. Get the heck out of there. Man, I feel bad for her friend. And I feel bad for her just, Beth, what you doing there?
Wait, she opened up a package that wasn't hers, Jim.
Yeah.
That's not her package. Forget Gotham 101. If a package showed up at my house marked to Jim Seguin, I'm not opening it up and taking a peek. Now, going back and backing up what you're saying, Gotham 101 would be, if a package shows up my house that's for you, I'm not opening it up. Even if you told me to, I'd be like, dude, this is Gotham. You open that up, and you open that up like a good safe distance from my house. Because I don't know what's in there. I live in Gotham.
Exactly.
I'll open up my own package if I'm 100% sure what it is. But...
And even then, you got to be careful.
It's Gotham, yeah. I think the moral of the story is, as much as I love Batman, I would not want to live in Gotham.
Oh God, no. We've said this before on the show. There's no way I would live in either Gotham or Metropolis. And then, being this huge Superman junkie, I would love to walk through the crowd and see this blue streak across the sky and go, wow, I just saw Superman. But there's no way I would live in that city. Far too much collateral damage happens in that city. And far too much crazy explosion, body count, villains, poisoning gas, poison water, that way too much crazy stuff happens in Gotham for me to live there. I think, again... Cleveland is probably the safest place to live in the DC universe, because I'm yet to hear of any crazy catastrophe happen in Cleveland.
That's why we've honestly got the most effective hero in the DC universe in Sir Thomas of Cleveland.
Exactly.
Gail Simone really crafted in Nemesis one of the best heroes around, because you don't hear a whole lot about Cleveland having anything happen.
He's the best there is.
You know what? I probably most likely would want to live in the Flash's city if I was living in a city where there was one of the heroes attached to them. Because stuff happens there, but it seems to be kind of the same stuff that happens throughout the entire DC universe, like when it's a disaster.
Yeah.
And the Flash usually seems to take care of things, and like, he'd actually chat with you and stuff. I don't know, though. It's I think you're right. I think you're better served living in one of the cities that, like Cleveland. Cleveland's probably the safest bet. You're right.
Iowa, another safe one.
You throw out Iowa a lot.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Other than me, I don't think there's anybody who's ever tried to destroy Iowa.
Well, you don't hear a whole lot about New Mexico either.
Well, true, but when Blue Beetle was down there, there was a lot of crazy stuff happening there.
Okay.
So that's part of the reason why I would avoid that. Vegas is Vegas. I always
Arkansas
live there, but
Arkansas seems to be a pretty safe state in the DC universe.
Yes, Arkansas is another safe one. Minnesota, that's another good safe one. You got your northern. I think your northern colder states seem to be safer ones.
Yeah, because DC heroes seem to be like very weather driven.
Yeah,
the Dakotas, you don't hear anything happening there. That'd be yeah. Where to live we just basically analyzed where to live in the DC universe. Is Hawaii safe? I don't hear a whole lot happen in Hawaii. Except wasn't there that Aquaman what was that?
Superboy was out there pre New 52 for a brief stint.
Right, that was pre New 52 though. So in the New 52, I think Hawaii's. Where was that creature from though? Remember that it was in Forever Evil in the
yes.
You know what I'm talking about?
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
That was in the Hawaiian Islands, right? So
yeah.
Or wasn't that near that?
It was in the that area.
Right. So maybe not.
And the thing I worry about Hawaii is because stuff like typhoons and floods and things like that happen a lot.
Okay.
In the superhero universe, Hawaii is something that someone that could really get decimated very easily.
So you're thinking not so much that it's a danger now, but it's preventative.
There's a high possibility that something could happen there. That's why I'm actually kind of sticking middle of the continental U.S. because I think we got a safer range because the shorelines usually get destroyed.
Okay.
And you pick an area that doesn't have high earthquake spots. Once again, central U.S. You got a lot of flat farmland. You don't hear too many people going after that, though. Kansas did get eviscerated, with the Superman Doom scenario. So you kind of got some risk in Kansas. Once again, Iowa, haven't really heard too much happening there. So,
wow. So big Ohio, I still think is safe though.
Ohio's still safe, yeah.
So I can't tell if you're making the jump to Iowa or if you'd stay in Ohio.
Well, I think you know what you got two pretty close areas now. The only thing that does have me worried about Ohio, is we do kind of have a close proximity to Detroit.
Okay.
And crazy stuff has happened up in Detroit, so it could very easily bleed down. some crazy stuff happens, obviously, in New York, and there could be, if it makes it through PA, it could hit us. So once again, currently not high danger level, but the potential for future danger could be there for Cleveland.
Right. So you're thinking, like, ultimately, if our world were to turn into the DC universe, Iowa's the place to be.
I think that may be one of our safer spots.
Okay.
Utah is another one I think would be pretty good.
Yeah, you don't hear a whole lot about Utah in the DC universe. Wow. Okay. So depending on your preference, that looks like Iowa and Utah tend to be.
Yeah.
Is there
those are kind of
anything surrounding Utah that you might think might be a danger?
I don't think so. I think we're pretty solid there. Once again, central of the U.S., central continental U.S., so you got enough landmass around you. You don't have high earthquake possibility there. Those are on the solid plates that forms the U.S., so you don't have a lot of earthquake activity. You do run the risk of, if you got some creature fighting from one end of the country to the other end of the country, they could possibly a path swipe through you. So you do run into that risk, but I think we haven't seen too many of those, in the universe. So I think we'd be okay there.
So basically, to take it back to what led to this discussion.
Yes.
Yeah. If you want to get a package in the DC universe, have an alias and have it delivered to either Iowa or Utah.
Exactly.
Then you're safe to open it.
Yeah.
Right. It was a long way to get to that. It's funny you were talking about Batman. We didn't, we saw the James Jr. and that whole conversation there, but you're right, we didn't really see Batman until that whole event took place. I was geeking out for Bard when that whole thing went down.
Yeah.
Falcone's a very dangerous man to treat so flippantly. Yeah, and I'm guessing you've always been downright friendly to him. Batman pausing. Your plan. I'm impressed.
Yeah.
And, him recognizing this isn't over yet. And the thing that I loved about Bard knew it wasn't just about getting them arrested. It was about keeping them arrested. That was the key part to his plan. How can I foil the obvious problems that we have getting this to go down? I loved that about this plan. This was easily my favorite issue of the series so far, and I've really enjoyed this series. But this issue for me was the whole plan, the moving, the shaking, and you're right, like you nailed it. It wasn't Batman. He wasn't there. It was Batman's world. Yeah. And that's just further proof of how well these characters are developed. But you're taking a character like Bard, who really in the New 52, this is Bard's introduction. What great character development. Stephanie Brown, the other two characters, just really throughout this has been really great. Those moments with him and Vicky Vale, and Vicky Vale recognizing her role in all this.
Yes.
And recognizing, oh, wait, I have the opportunity here to step up and make this happen by using my paper for this purpose. Here's the question. What kind of pressure is going to come down on her? What kind of pressure is going to come down on Bard because of this? This is going to get really interesting because these two just painted huge targets on themselves.
Well, the thing that Bard's got to watch out for is right now the Falcone gang hasn't been targeting cops. Now that Falcone's no longer has the cops in his pocket, now that they're going to start becoming targets. I think that's how they're going to hurt Bard. It's either going to be a direct assault on Bard or a direct assault on Gotham PD. Because a guy like Bard will be hurt if you go after his brothers. That will hurt him. And that will be something, that's a way they could really stick it to him. So could possibly be some assault on the police department. And with Vicky, who knows? Well, a direct attack on her, manipulation of the newspaper. Who knows how deep how deep Falcone's influence is? Whether he has somebody on the paper, whether maybe the editor is actually in his back pocket. Who knows? I think we're going to definitely see some repercussions to her as well.
Yeah, I agree. That's part of the fun of all this, is seeing the amazing development of all these characters. Hey, have you seen, I want to throw this out real quick, they've done these little, you probably haven't seen them, they're little preview art for the new Teen Titans series and Grayson. It's this artwork of the team, and it says, "They call us weapons. We call them tools." A new monthly series. Will Pfeiffer, Kenneth Rocafort, July 2014. This is Teen Titans.
Oh, God, yes. Oh, yes, I will find that. I have not seen it yet, so I will hunt that down.
And they did the same thing for Grayson. You think you know Nightwing, you don't know Dick. And a new monthly series by Tim Seeley, Tom King, Mikkel Janin, and it's Dick Grayson holding the gun out. This is Grayson.
Yeah.
It's just really, really cool stuff. So I like this ad promotion that they're doing. It's a great way to, get kind of trendy. And we're going to have Katana on Arrow.
Really?
Yeah, Devin Aoki, and I'm probably butchering her last name. She was in Sin City 2 and Fast and Furious.
Oh, okay.
So she was in Sin City, and in Too Fast and Too Furious. But it's cool. I'm glad that they're bringing more characters from the DC universe into Arrow. Nice. Katana makes perfect sense.
Yeah, she fits. So, especially we've seen connections and ties, in the Green Arrow comic book. So they're doing some good connections there.
Speaking of Teen Titans, and I guess this is why I wanted to talk about this when we saw Red Robin's Nest. I got to tell you, in the New 52, this is the character I was most worried about because the love that we have for the character and his rich history. Tim Drake, oh my gosh, the wings, I was so not sold on them until I saw them in practice. I am so into them now. When he comes in that art sequence there, oh, what a beautiful sequence. All systems, activate, record, that flip in. Yeah. But then, the whole thing with him and Harper Row, where she's analyzing it and going, he created this system himself. The admiration that they have, I can't wait to see the interaction between the two of them. It was just a page, but what a page it was.
Oh, I so want to see this going down, because it's, the thing that gets me is seeing, one, she was able to hack in and break into the nest without him realizing she's there. And then as she's overhearing his conversation, now part of me always gives Tim credit, to being, does he actually know she's there? And he's just playing this right now, playing a role to try to either lure her out or do something. Or is he testing her to see how good she really is? Is this all a giant test for her just to see what's going on? Or is she completely sidestepped him on this one?
I don't know. I see it going both ways. I think you're asking the right questions. I'm not sure that I'm sold on either way of it going.
Yeah.
So, I think you're right. I'd say yes to both. I'm not sure which it is, because she's that kind of interesting character where it could be the other way. And I could also see Tim, knowing she was there. So I don't know.
Yeah.
It appears that she sidestepped him, if you go on the way that it's written. But that doesn't mean that I would not be in shock to find out that Tim has been leading her to this point.
Right.
Because that fits Tim as well. So
yeah, the way it's completely written, it looks like she completely sidestepped them and has one up on them. Mm-hmm. Which, to be honest, I wouldn't have too big of an issue with, because she is good. And we've seen she's been able to, piece together stuff with Batman. So, yes, we're dealing with an equal level of somebody who is as good as Tim Drake is. So, again, I wouldn't upset that, but I always do have that affinity towards Tim, and I would love to see the whole time that she's thinking, I've got him. He's like, no, I've had you the entire time. Because you think back to when Tim was initially hunting down Bruce, and when they initially told in the New 52 how Bruce kept leading Tim along and just kept leading, giving him false leads and stuff like that. And Tim never technically figured out that Bruce Wayne was Batman in the New 52, but he was on the path. And I can see Tim doing the same thing to her, just leading her on the path, seeing what she knows, testing her.
And I wouldn't mind it if she was really that good too. I don't know. I'm intrigued by the whole thing. I could see it going either way. It appears right now she sidestepped him. It appears,
yes,
but
that's how it appears. But there always can be the swerve.
But not 100%, because he's onto her, which she heard. So it's not as simple as she's completely the one-upped. She's already on his radar, and she got that reveal as well. So it's an interesting little tete-a-tete.
Yeah.
I'm talking about Bard and Vicky Vale again. We have to talk about the phone tapping.
Yeah.
Because they're taking it one step further, which this really forces things now. And I don't think they realize to the level of what this forces, because once this comes out that Forbes is doing this, here's the question. What if Vicky's boss is in the pocket?
Yeah. He kills the story.
Yeah, yeah. Or what if by running the story, this causes a whole... it's going to be very interesting to see what happens if they buy the paper.
Well, yeah, and what happened... Well, if Forbes is of no use to Falcone, he's dead. Flat out. So, because that was the whole thing where, you'll see what happens. You'll see exactly what happens to friends who disappoint me, who disappoint Carmine Falcone. It's right there, and he's gonna. So Forbes knows he's in trouble if he can't stop this.
Right.
Yeah.
It's great stuff. I'm just really, really enjoying this series, and the ending page, where you're sitting there seeing Cluemaster going, "Hey, why am I not there? I'll tell you why I'm not there, because she's going to come to me."
Yeah.
I don't know if I agree with that. Spoiler's smart, and is it going to be that simple? Because she realizes she's being hunted now. I think she's going to try to do something to stop him, but what is it going to be? And it could be that she does do that, and that leads her... Is that how she meets Batman? I don't know. It's... Because we've seen that preview where she does meet Batman. So right. Is that ultimately what leads to those issues coming to fruition? Because at some point in time, everything we saw in that teaser of Batman Eternal in the Batman book is going to come to pass. Yeah. So we're leading to that road.
Yeah, see, on one hand, I absolutely love what the Cluemaster did. Because, again, it's showing that Cluemaster isn't just a watered-down version of the Riddler. There is, yes, he had his point, in the past he had his issues with leaving out clues that let him get trapped. Well, now it's more of a deductive villain. It's more of a intelligence villain. Mm-hmm. Dare I say it? It's more of a strategery that we see from him.
Which is why he's a second-rate Riddler, because Riddler understands the word strategy. So I agree, everything you're saying, I agree it's a strategery.
Yeah. But, okay, seriously, it is showing that there is this level of intelligence and there is this level of planning. And I do like the plan that he did, because he was hunting her down. He's trying to find her. You know what? Let's flip the page here. Let's do an emotional charge on this. Because he had the first time where they did the drive-by, got the wrong person. Well, guess what? I get her angry. She's going to stop thinking clearly. She's going to stop being the spoiler. She's going to stop being... She's just going to be the grieving friend who wants vengeance. And I think that's where Bruce steps in, because Bruce goes, no, you don't want to, you got to use your head, not just, gut emotional reaction. That's how you get caught. That's how you get killed.
Yeah. This is one of the things that I really love about the New 52. And actually, before the New 52, DC was starting to do this as well. It's taking some of the villains that have lost relevance and finding a way to not ignore the perception of them, but to embrace that and push them into a new relevance. They've done this with Cluemaster here. They basically have said, you've always been a joke. You've always been viewed as a second-rate Riddler. Yeah. Now they're showing us why, well, maybe there's more to the story. I'm fond when they do that. They did this. Aquaman's a great character where they've laughed at that as well and had some fun with it, and yet made the character so much more than what he was before. They're doing that with Cluemaster as well, while still acknowledging previous perceptions. There's something cool about that where you bring on the history, where we know what his history was like, and it makes the story more compelling. They really have done Stephanie Brown and her family a solid here. I mean, this is exactly what I wanted with the character, and I can't wait to see more and how these stories converge. You know what I want to see? I want to see her meet up with Tim Drake at some point.
Yeah. This is a great creation of Spoiler. And this is a reason why Spoiler is being created, and they're bringing her into the relevance of the DC universe. And I don't know what the end game is going to be with Stephanie Brown, whether we're going to get an ongoing Spoiler presence or if she's just going to be a flash imagery, what's going to happen to her. But they're definitely building up the character and building that solid framework.
Can we
for
please get a Red Robin series? Please get a Red Robin
series. Oh, God,
I
love that.
That's where you want her.
Yeah.
I mean... These characters, these are characters that need to have their own. Tim Drake needs his own series. Yes.
Yeah.
Like, I know that, like, it's okay. Now we're asking for another Bat book. Yes. but that's oversimplifying. It's it's like saying we want another DC book. These are DC characters. Tim Drake is a DC character in and of his own, that he's more than just a Bat book. And I would love a Tim Drake book. He should be in his own book. There should be a Red Robin series. It really should be, for the same reason that I want a Dick Grayson series.
Stephanie is somebody they could throw in the in Batgirl.
No, I want Stephanie.
She could very easily be part of a Batgirl series.
I don't want her in the Batgirl series. I want her in the Red Robin series. I want the relationship there. I think there's an opportunity to put these two together. And in the New 52, this Stephanie Brown being with Tim Drake, I always loved that relation. You've read that relationship. That was a phenomenal relationship.
I agree with you. I love the relationship, but I really enjoy the potential of Harper and Tim together.
Oh, okay.
That's why I'm thinking you got Red Robin and Bluebird in one series. You got Spoiler and Batgirl in another.
Why not both?
But
why not have a triangle?
Yeah, triangle. They could do that as well.
I mean, look how well we just talked about the Flash. How much we like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, there's so much you could do with these characters. Regardless, I would love to see a Red Robin series. Would you read a Spoiler series?
Yes, I definitely would.
So would I.
I don't think there's enough of a support for it, though, that it would last. And it's, I love the character. I would definitely be all in, but I don't think the current comic book environment, even though they're doing a great job creating this character, I don't think spinning out of Batman Eternal it would support for a while. It would be one of those where they would give it a try and it would last, for a little bit, and then it would go away, unfortunately. And I just think, and again, it's unless they put on they gave you a nice dream team, creative team, and get people into it and stuff like that. But the character, I don't think, is popular enough and well known enough to that right now she could support it. If she was on a regular book ongoing, then eventually down the line, yes. But right now, I don't know. But again,
you know what?
We've got 60 issues. So.
I got a solution to it. After this is over, a Gotham Weekly.
Yeah.
And let me clarify that. Where it focuses on the kind of stories that we want to read with a lot of these extra characters that are in Gotham that we all want to see and we want to see developed. I mean, Bard's shining. I would read, a whole book devoted to Lieutenant Bard. I really would. I think he's fantastic.
Gotham PD has been a book that people have said, hey, why don't they bring that back?
But that's what I'm saying. You could have all that if you've got a weekly, where you have different, you kind of have a strong editorial behind it. You have different creative teams shifting in and out where you've got certain pages devoted towards upcoming stories where you're keeping it moving forward, but there's a main focal story that's kind of driving it. Like in this. I mean, you see it, one page devoted to Red Robin and Harper Row in this particular issue? That works great. Gets you teased, gets you excited for that. That could be an upcoming storyline. That's the way you can handle that. I think this book is a great template on something you could keep going and focus on characters that you can't have everybody in their own book. So maybe this is the solution to it. I don't know. I hope they do something. I hope this is hugely successful and it leads them to look at ways to further spend time on more of these great characters, because there's certainly I'm looking at a lot of characters in this book that I would read in monthlies because of how good they are.
Yeah. Let me throw out the question to you.
Mm-hmm.
Yes or no? Does Gordon, take James Jr. up on his offer?
No, unless something happens that would make, because he believes in the system, and that's something that is pivotal to him. But is there something that could cause him to do it in spite of that? A danger to Barbara, a danger to, some event that makes him say, I need to get out and help with this. That would be the reason. He wouldn't do it unless there was a reason.
And
James's reason is no. What James laid out for him, the answer would be no. Some pivotal event would have to happen to make it a yes, and that hasn't happened yet. But I'm not convinced it won't.
I'm saying that yes, he is going to, and here's why.
Mm-hmm.
James Jr.'s got something else planned up his sleeve, because he even told them, you have all of tomorrow to decide. Seeing person after person take the stand and show you how eager Gotham is to eat you alive. There's something, and then when he's walking away, he's like, "You're sure?" Of course I am. We're family after all. Just that little bit of smirk, on James, Jr.'s face. He's got something planned for the courtroom tomorrow to take this to a whole nother level. Gordon's going to have to break out.
No, I still say no. There has to be some event, some danger. Gordon needs. Yeah, Gordon knows.
James Jr.
Everything you're saying,
something.
Everything Gordon's saying. Gordon knows that that's what's going to happen in the courtroom. He's no dummy. He knows that's what's going to happen. That's not going to be enough. There has to be some other event that happens.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. There's going to be something else.
It's not going to be somebody on the stand.
I think something's going to happen in the courtroom.
It depends on what happens.
Yeah. There's going to be something that happens, and it's not just going to be people taking a stand saying he's a criminal. James Jr.'s got something planned. And part of me wonders if it's not going to be a manipulation of Barbara. Because Junior knows everything. So maybe Junior's got something else planned for Barbara. We know right now she's out of the country, but does she come back in time? Does she, or when she's out, something happens to her? Who knows?
I don't know. It's a really good question.
Yeah, there's going to be something. I think Gordon's taking him up on the offer. I think Jim Gordon's going to be an escaped fugitive. And I'm not thinking he's doing it because he's a bad guy. I'm thinking there's something else is going to happen because this story isn't going to take place with Gordon sitting behind bars.
I don't know. Yeah, I just wanted to look back at, Jim and I were both doing it, looking back at Batman number 28. We just wanted to see if there was any reference to Gordon at all, and there wasn't. They actually did a really good job in that issue of teasing that Gotham's changed drastically and revealing certain tidbits that we haven't seen yet, but there's nothing that spoils, which is really well done. I mean, they gave us a really heavy glimpse into that things have changed drastically without giving us too much. So I'm excited to see what's going to happen there. I don't know. So the offer, and I think we're meant to be in this place, wondering what's going to happen with that offer. I would say my moral compass says Gordon would not willingly take that offer, but I don't know that we're actually just saying something different here,
right?
Because you're talking about it being an unwilling situation.
Yeah, there's something. James Jr. is the puppet master, and he's going to manipulate the circumstance to make Gordon take the offer. Or to be honest, he could very easily kidnap Gordon and make it look like Gordon escaped. But
he doesn't want that. No. See that's that.
I don't see
that part.
Right.
I will dispute and say that will not happen in a million years.
Right.
For James Jr., it only is.
Only if Dad chooses to leave.
Yes, and it's going to have to be a really special circumstance for that to happen. I'm not sold. But you're right. James is twisted enough to put something in place. I'm excited. I just want to see what's going to happen. That's how you build a story. Whatever happens, either way, I'm excited to see it.
Oh, no, you don't!
Hey guys, this is Sam calling in from Seattle. I'm a relatively new listener. Just discovered your podcast, and I gotta say, it's awesome. I've been listening to the past couple of days, catching up on old podcasts, but I just had to skip ahead when I saw you guys are interviewing Tom King with the upcoming Grayson and the Nightwing number 30. That was a phenomenal issue. I couldn't put it down. And during your interview with him, I actually bought it again digitally at work, just so I could read it while you guys were interviewing him. He is a very, very awesome writer. It's going to be an incredible run on Grayson, too. Have you guys taken a look at the new preview for Grayson? It's been in the back of some new issues lately, and a blonde Dick Grayson. It took a little while. I read it a couple times, but it's grown on me now. It's going to be a pretty good run, especially with how he interacted with the gun. Basically within the first couple pages, how he just used the gun but didn't use the gun. It's an incredible concept, and how Tom discussed that it's going to be about the morality issue of him using a gun. I mean, I read a couple interviews with him just online somewhere, and it's going to be. I'm very excited for this. It's going to be a great, great run. I just want to give you guys input on it, and wondering if you caught that little sneak peek. Thanks again for the great podcast, and I'll be tuning in from here on out. So thanks again, guys. All right.
I am loving these previews. I think it's really just a fantastic idea to pull you in. It was funny, he's talking about the blonde Dick Grayson, and I like the idea as a spy that he would have to change his hair color. I'm wondering if he's going to stay blonde or if, we're going to see hair color changes and outfit changes as a spy to blend in. So I think we're going to probably see... I don't know that this is what's going to happen. I'm guessing we're going to see more than one change from him along the way. It does go back to that, remember that Thanksgiving teaser image where Nightwing had blonde hair?
Yep.
So that's obviously a tease to that. Would you care if he stayed blonde?
No, I think, again, as you said, with the being the spy, you got to switch stuff up. Plus the fact that Dick Grayson's dead. So he does have to change his appearance just in case, he could run across somebody who recognizes, hey, aren't you the guy who they showed being dead, being Nightwing? You got to change, some stuff up. And, hair color, you'd be amazed at how you could throw somebody off just by just some overt changes like that. They showed one of the, I can't remember what it was, year one where they were talking about where Bruce put the big scar that ran down his face because that's something that would draw people's attention. When they look at his face, they would see the fake scar and say a guy with a scar. They wouldn't look at the overall picture. When you see this guy with bright blonde hair, you're going to look at the blonde hair and you're going to say, oh yeah, the guy had blonde hair. Well, what about his face? I didn't really look at that because he's got that feature that draws your eye, that draws your attention.
Yeah, it's probably interesting. I wonder how that works with males versus females. Because typically, hair color changes is something that's more prominent with females. It's not to say the males don't do it. Males do. But, they'll lighten their hair, they'll darken their hair. The lead singer of Maroon 5 changed his hair to a blonde for a while. Those are things that happen, but it's not as common with a male. So I wonder if in this type of scenario, you would get away with it more as a male than you would as a female. I don't know. It's interesting in the spy book. I don't know if that's going to stay. I think it's interesting. The gun issue that he's talking about, I would be sorely disappointed if they didn't explore the morality of it. That should be a huge part of it, and I find that interesting. If you don't play around with that, we got a problem. So yeah. I love that the writers are like, well, he's going to be a spy, and he's going to have to deal with that morality issue of it, and I can't wait to see how that plays into the book. That part's you've got to remember you're putting Dick Grayson in these scenarios, not some random unknown, and that's where unless you take full advantage of the fact that this is Dick Grayson being put in this scenario, you're missing the boat. And believe me, that from our interview with him. And, it's obvious Dan picked up on that. It doesn't sound like they're going to miss the boat on that at all. They're going to embrace that fully, which is what we want as readers. We want to feel like this is Dick Grayson being put in this scenario, not that it's some foreign character. You make him unrecognizable, then you got a problem. Actually, we were talking about in the New 52 with some of our worries about Mr. Terrific. You wind up in that scenario. I don't think we're going to have that with this book.
No.
Oh, and the art is gorgeous.
Yes. And we know that... just from when we interviewed him, we talked to him how much he loves the character Dick Grayson.
Yeah.
This is a personal passion for him. So this is something that he's going to do right by the character because he loves the character. So that's something that I really was excited. Every time we talk to him, just you hear his passion, you hear his fire he has for this character. And when you have creative teams that have that love and that passion, you're going to get something special.
Yeah, he's not trying to repair some inherent problem with Dick Grayson. He's trying to put Dick Grayson in his book. And there's a key difference between the two concepts. When you got a writer who's really trying to embrace Dick Grayson in this status quo, we're going to get what we want as readers. That's what we want as readers. That's what people's biggest worries come from is this still going to be Dick Grayson? And it sounds clearly like that's what's going to be. Cool stuff.
Oh,
and actually, I want to thank Dan for letting us know that he's been checking out some of the past episodes. I always like knowing that because, every podcaster that hosts their files, some of them have found free solutions now, but most of us have a paid solution to how we host our files that we've had since we started. And part of the pay for hosting our files is that the older files stay readily available. So it always makes me smile when I see either from our stats or from a great comment like Dan's that they found some value in the older material, whether you're listening to everything or you're picking and choosing episodes or even picking and choosing segments that looked interesting to you. I'm just glad that our older content is finding value for some people when they have time. So that's cool stuff. And welcome aboard, Dan. I hope you continue to enjoy the ride.
You won't get away from me this time, Buster.
I want to remind everybody about our show voicemail line. It's 1-440-388-4434 or Dr. Norge on Skype. That's always in our show notes and on our website, and we love having you part of our show. We want to remind everyone that we have a Facebook page and a Facebook group. The Facebook page is a regular Raging Bullets Facebook page. It actually comes from our website, ragingbullets.com. And usually all the information from our website is fed there, so you can follow our regular website, you can follow our Facebook page, or our Twitter account. We also have a Facebook group, which we share with DCinfinite.com, which is your DC news source. And it's a wonderful, thriving community, and I just love being there. I love seeing everything that's posted. Fellow podcasters post there, bloggers post there. There's always great discussion about comics and pop culture. It's a wonderful site, and I just want to thank everyone that's a part of the community, because really it's grown so far beyond our show and when we originally started it that that's due to the quality of the people that are there. We have a Google Plus page. I have a personal Facebook page and a personal Google Plus page, which you are welcome to add on to. And Jim also has a personal Facebook page. So feel free to add us on in any of those areas of social media. We love chatting with you about comics, pop culture, anything really relating about the show. I do want to remind everyone about episode 400. Episode 400 is going to be us taking a look at bad DC cinema. Actually, movies that are traditionally considered bad when they talk about them. And that would be DC's film Catwoman, Batman and Robin, and Superman, The Quest for Peace. And we're going to be joined, it looks like for part or all of that, by friend of the show, Art Lyon. We're going to be discussing and dissecting those films on our upcoming anniversary episode 400. It looks like that will likely be a two-parter, and it all depends on the amount of content we get out of it, but we plan to really kind of take apart and dissect the films, talk about pros and cons of the movie. Were there sequences we liked? And honestly, out of any of us, were there films, those are considered bad? How do we feel about them? Maybe we don't all feel the same way about those films. Maybe we genuinely love some of those movies. So it'll be fun to have kind of a debate over where those films fall on our rankings. We've never really talked about those movies on the show, so it'd be fun to have kind of a lively discussion about them. If you have any comments about that episode, feel free to call our show voicemail line or send us an email. Make sure that those comments are labeled episode 400 or designate that in your phone call when you do that. It gets for episode 400. If you want to send in anything for the show for episode 400, parodies, songs, well wishes, whatever, you may also send those via email to ragingbullets@icloud.com or submit them via our show voicemail line. And again, just let us know that they're for the episode. But we love having you part of the show, so feel free to participate in any capacity and have some fun with it. That's an anniversary for us. It's biggie. So we're glad to have anyone a part of it in any way that you would like to celebrate our 400th episode. Sponsoring this episode, once again, is DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com. Over at DCBService.com, do not forget to check out Teen Titans Earth 1 hardcover, Volume 1, at a special discount of 50% off. It's $22.99 regularly, 50% off only $11.49. Remember, they are a digital partner, so if you do any shopping digitally for Comixology or My Digital Comics, make sure to link those accounts to your DCB Service account. Earn 5% of those purchases towards your DCB Service order. So all of that adds up really quickly to give you free stuff from DCBService.com. Over at InStockTrades.com, don't forget to check out that 45% off Hellblazer 1-8 trade paperback deal. If you have some of those trades, it's a great way to fill in the blanks. If you've never read Hellblazer before, it's a great chance to get those at 45% off each. Remember, like things like trade paperback Volume 1, $19.99 regularly, 45% off, only $10.99. That savings adds up quickly, especially if you're buying multiple trades. And remember, $50 or more, free shipping from InStockTrades.com. Our next episode, we're going to be joined by longtime friend of the show, Freddie E. Williams II. We take a look at his recent work at Brain Boy, Volume 2, Issues 1 and 2. It's actually taglined The Men from Gestalt. And we're going to be talking to him in depth about both of those books on our next episode. So we will see you then.
Bye.
through space and time, 1,000 different lifetimes. Faded for love and flaws and incredibly clear sightlines. Swinging your mace around, such a practical outlook. Helping the JSA and occasionally supporting your own book. Hawkman, Hawkman, eagle eyes can't see. Hawkman, your plan and what you do to me. Hawkman. The villains are closing in, be they Thanin Guard or Egyptian. Working so hard to thwart you and Hawkgirl's mission. The odds are not on your side, and danger seems to stack up. Things would be so much easier if you would just call for backup. Hawkman, Hawkman, eagle eyes can't see your plan and what you do to me. Hawkman, Hawkman, eagle eyes can't see.